So before I hand this off to Professor Jeff Nyhoff for our prayer, before we ask you guys to get your food real quick, just a few words of thanks to a few people. Number one is for Professor Jeff Nyhoff for being open and collaborating with me in this class. We made a great partnership out of it, and it was an awesome experience. I hope we're going to duplicate it again and make it even better next time. I do want to thank my judges as well, all for being here, who I'll introduce in a moment. Kathy Davis for making this event happen. My students, Tom and Ryan, for all making this class what it was. Now, I will introduce the judges after our prayer, but I'm going to have Professor Nyhoff lead us in prayer.
Well, I just wanted to quick say a few words of thank you, too. This has been exciting. You've heard some of this story from me before about how I taught mobile apps before. We did programming, we made technologies, but they didn't really make sense, right? In some ways, they were just students programming for themselves or solutions in search of a problem, as I sometimes say. This way of working, it's really been fascinating to see how the agile way of working that started off in a software arena has gone on to invigorate so many areas of work and of culture. And interdisciplinary work is one of my passions, and so this has really been a good experience for me too. So, but let's go to our God in prayer before we start. Lord, we thank you for so many things. We thank you for making us all different and gifting us in so many different ways. We speak different languages. We learn different ways of working. We have different vocabularies. We have different tools to offer to each other. Thank you for these students and the opportunity they had to learn about each other, learn about different ways of working, to pool their gifts together. And we just thank you for their diligence and we ask that you bless them today. In their presentations. We thank you for this food and thank you for the opportunity to gather. And we thank you for your promise that whenever 2 or 3 gather in your name, you're there with us. So we thank you for being here with us right now through your Holy Spirit. And we pray all these things in Jesus' powerful name. Amen.
All right, so we're going to ask you guys if you guys want to go grab some food real quick, come back to your seats, and we're going to get started very shortly. So grab some chips, sandwiches, cookies, drinks. Judges, you do as well. And then we'll introduce everybody and get going. Thank you. Very quick introduction of our judges. Again, we want to make sure to thank them for being here. They're taking 3 hours of their time to be here for us and for our students, and we really do appreciate that. So a round of applause for them real quick because that was a major commitment. So I'll start from left to right. So we have Dr. Kelly Nyhoff. We actually had her name tag as Kelly Mullen earlier, so I do apologize. But Kelly Nyhoff, who is a professor of finance here in economics at Trinity. She's also had extensive experience working with startups and doing a lot of studies and research for some of the startups in accelerators in Wisconsin, I believe. Is that right, Kelly? Wisconsin. We also have President Kurt Dykstra, who is obviously president of Trinity Christian College. He's also an attorney by background and a former mayor of Holland, Michigan as well. We have Daniel Contreras, who is a technology strategist at Microsoft. Many of you actually met him when he came in and spoke in one of my classes earlier this semester. He's also an 1871 mentor, and he has worked extensively with young companies, young people, and startups, so I'm very pleased to have him here as well, too. And finally, we have Dr. Mike Shatavi, who is the professor of accounting here at Trinity Christian College. He also used to work for a venture capital outfit called I2A, which is now known as Chicago Ventures, and they're down at 1871. So he was very active in the 1871 community in our early days, so also glad to have him here today. So now, before I pass the mic off to Thrift Club, I want to wish everybody good luck today. You guys have worked hard all semester, and now's the time to showcase what you've been doing, okay? So good luck to you all. Thrift Club, I'll let you know when the clock starts.
Testing, testing.
Yeah, so by way of quick review, and the judges probably had a good pointer to give you guys as well, too. When you score each team, I'm going to have you real quick. Just a quick pointer to all the judges. Make sure to keep the scores with you after you score each team. They will serve the first 2 or 3 as your benchmarks. So as you go back and forth, you want to make sure how you're comparing the teams. Keep your scores and keep referring to them back and forth. The way this works is we have a 30-minute block for each startup, each company. 12 to 15 minutes are going to be reserved for the actual pitch. The remainder of the time, minimum of 15, maximum of 18 minutes, will be reserved for Q&A from the judges. We will take one of the mics when we're done, hand it off to the judges. The judges will use the mic to ask the questions. You guys hand the mics off back and forth to respond to the questions. Fair enough? Great. Still on, so you're good.
Is this one on? Is this one on? Okay. Does this sound right? I feel like
It's just going to the camera.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Am I starting? Okay, perfect. Take a moment to remember the last time you were at a thrift store. Now, imagine you own that thrift store. You manage the inventory, you manage the volunteers, you manage the cash. Like most thrift stores, you have a steady, if not overwhelming, influx of donations coming in constantly. There's inventory in the back that can't be sold at the moment for a plethora of reasons. There's inventory in the front that's really good, but it's not selling fast enough to keep up with the thrift store pace. And remember that inventory that's always coming in through donations? That's piling up. That's taking up space. And within those donations are a bunch of items that you're not going to be able to sell for a fraction of what they're worth, merely because the right people aren't coming into your store. Now, on the other hand, meet Katie. Katie is 24 years old. She likes to find a good deal, like most casual shoppers. However, she doesn't necessarily want to go to thrift stores because she's not sure what she's going to find. She doesn't want to spend an hour of her time going through racks and bins of clothing just to find nothing.
That's where we come in. Thrift Club is an online platform that is helping thrift centers acquire new customers through e-commerce technology. So how are we doing that? Well, we're going to create an online market presence for these thrift centers. Now, most brick and mortar mom and pop thrift centers don't have any online presence at all. Only ones like Goodwill that are big and corporate have those. So we're going to bring that in. And by doing that, we're going to help them to reduce their excess inventory by giving them another place to sell their items. By allowing them to sell their items at this other place, it's going to help them to reach a greater audience, rather than just the immediate vicinity around their store. They can reach the entirety of America. Now through this, having them this extra amount of sales and this greater audience is going to help increase and grow their sales and their revenue. Now for shoppers like Katie, they can shop anywhere, whether that's at work or at home. They can find a wider selection of items, ranging from whatever they need to buy in the moment. Now, not only can you search for all thrift stores, you can go to your favorite thrift stores, whether that's just the one down the street or maybe one all the way in California. Now, the great part about this is you can do all of this without ever leaving your bed. So you can buy something and have it shipped straight to you without getting up.
So target market. We landed at our target market for online deal seekers ranging from ages 20s to 30s. We did about over 50 interviews to land at that number. We chose the 20s and 30s just for the fact that they're going to be more inclined to use technology and want another app or go to a website to find great deals on thrift store merchandise that's online.
For the size of the market, there's over $5 million of over-the-counter thrift store sales in 2018. And there are 2,000 brick-and-mortar thrift stores in the United States. However, on the other side, 9.9% of United States retail sales occur in e-commerce. And this shows steady growth and is expected to continue increasing. However, there's not a good intermediary between the two, and that's where we're going to come in.
So our system. For a thrift center to use our platform, it's pretty simple. All they have to do is go to our website, thriftclub.co, and open up their shop, register as a vendor, and that's all they have to do. From there, they can upload any item they want, put in a brief description about it, add a price, and once it sells, they ship it. And for shoppers like Katie, maybe she wants to go buy a new dress for the upcoming school dance, so she can go shop in the women's clothing category. Or maybe you want some new furniture for your new apartment that you got after graduating.
We will base our pricing based off of what the thrift stores already value their items at, just like how in-store they value their items and sell them for that amount. We'll calculate our shipping based on how many items are in a cart and the weight of those items. We'll also offer discounts for large purchases. And we'll take a 10% commission off of the items that we sell. It is important to note here, though, that the items that we are selling are the excess inventories of the store. So these items are only available online. Thrift stores have the excess inventory, and they need that excess inventory to be sold in order to make a profit up from it. Otherwise, it's just going to be taking in extra space. So they are, and we have seen this through our interviews, they are willing to take that percentage-based commission and give it to us if it means that they get that extra revenue of selling that merchandise. So why us? We are going to be a wide-reaching platform. We're going to offer marketing expertise to these thrift stores. Now, our next slide actually shows that there are a lot of different, can you go to the next slide? There are a lot of different secondhand retailers already out there, and there are places where thrift stores can sell their items. However, we're different because we're offering an exclusive platform for them to not only sell their items, but also be able to promote their business. They're going to be able to sell their items at a much faster rate than if they were just selling it as a miscellaneous item on eBay.
So to go into our SWOT analysis. So acting as an intermediary between online shoppers and thrift stores, we're having very few overhead. We are going to be able to offer shoppers to access their store merchandise without having to go into the store. So when we were going through our interviews, we found out that a lot of people didn't like going into thrift stores for whatever reason. Those reasons were some felt like it hit their reputation to go into a thrift store, and others didn't like searching through tons of bins and clothing racks to maybe find a shirt they're looking for. So with our online platform, we're going to have all these tools and categories that are going to allow them to efficiently shop through our platform and find their product they're looking for right away. Also, we provide plenty of incentive for thrift stores to join. We increase their sales, expand their target market reach significantly, and we offer no upfront cost for thrift stores to join. And lastly, we outsource our labor to these thrift stores, so they have to deal with all the inventory. They search through the inventory to find what they want to sell on there, and also they warehouse that inventory in their brick and mortar thrift stores. So weaknesses. So with any e-commerce online app or website, you're going to have to deal with shipping costs. Also, since we are acting as an intermediary between online shoppers and thrift stores, we're not going to offer returns. So opportunities. Thrift stores always need to find larger markets. As Nalani was talking about earlier, through our interviews, we found that a lot of them have excess inventory, and that's just inventory sitting around that they aren't able to sell, and they're not making money. And also, thrift stores are behind in technology. There was this one thrift store we went to, and they had a little piece of paper and wrote on the paper with the price. And you'd go up to the register, and they'd punch in the price and then add the sales tax, and that's how they did that operation. And it was just not efficient, so they don't have any like branding or barcode scanning that's actually implemented. Another great opportunity we have is people are always going to be wanting to look for unique products and find great prices for them. And then threats. The online market is extremely competitive, as Nalani was saying, but we are definitely unique in many different ways. There's a possibility that there will be new entrants that we'll have to deal with. Once we are hitting our sales projections and doing extremely well, the people are going to want to try and recreate our app and do it that way. So we're going to have to continue to innovate and be unique. And then there's going to be the adaptability we're having to deal with changing technology in the inventory systems for thrift stores. And that's just stuff we're going to have to adapt and innovate with.
So who are we, and why should you trust us? I'm Alec Visser. I'll be the manager of technology for Thrift Club. I'm a computer science major with minors in entrepreneurship and theology.
I'm Alex Nissel. I'm a finance major here, and I'll be the manager of finance for Thrift Club.
I'm Jessica Eckberg, and I'm manager of human relations, and I'm majoring in computer science and a minor in business.
And I'm Nalani Schnabel. I'll be the manager of marketing, and I am an entrepreneurial management major with the marketing minor.
So what have we done so far with Thrift Club, and what kind of traction do we have? Well, we did over 50 interviews, both with customers and with thrift centers, to see what they wanted so that we could make the best possible piece of technology to fit their needs. We also created a survey that we posted over social medias, including Reddit and Facebook, to reach as great of an audience as we possibly could. One of our interviews, we got a connection through Ryan Hessla, which was Priscilla Steenwitz. So we did a meeting with her, and she showed some interest initially. They had actually already been thinking about expanding their thrift store to the online market. And once she heard our pitch, she was on board and ready to partner with us. So me and Nolani actually did some volunteering for her thrift store to kind of get some brownie points with her and to get a feel of how their thrift store works. After that, we did another interview with her where we demoed our technology that we had and showed that to her. And once she saw that, she was all on board, ready to partner with us. So once we work out some kinks in our technology, we're going to be ready to sign her up and get her selling on our platform. So our platform is a website. It's at thriftclub.co. And so what it is, it's a multi-vendor website. And what that means is that any amount of thrift stores, any amount of stores can come on there and they can register as a vendor and they can sell there. And then that also doubles as a place for the consumers to go and to buy their items and have them shipped to them.
So future outlooks. This is the projected revenue. Now, please keep in mind that the numbers that I inputted here were very conservative as far as what we might potentially be able to sell. I wanted to keep it as minimal as possible for the summer because that's when we're going to be just launching everything. We're going to be getting that connection, and we're going to be starting that selling with customers. So these numbers are rather small, but they are really conservative because I wanted to show you what the lowest we think we could possibly do is. This is almost a worst case scenario, if you will. Then the next one is the profit. This is taking into account the fact that we are only taking a percentage of the commissions from thrift stores, and we are still seeing an increase in growth, especially over the next few years. As we start to get more traction, we'll definitely have a greater increase in growth and a greater increase in profits.
Objectives. So our confidence in our goal is to partner with 20 thrift stores by the end of 2019. And we also are confident in making 100 transactions by the end of 2019.
Any of you have questions that you'd like to ask?
Well,
Oh, sorry. How will your money be used, of course. Can't skip over that. This is important. So there's not actually a lot of costs that go into Thrift Club. So because of that, your money will primarily be used for marketing. We're going to use mostly Facebook ads, as you can input a select amount of money that you want to give to them monthly, and they will show ads based on how much money you give to them. We're also hoping to print some posters and get some customizable posters for thrift centers. So once they register with us, they can put these posters in their store, and that will advertise for both them and us and hopefully increase revenue. Now, questions.
All right. So I don't need to hear my voice come through this. We're good, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I know it's weird. Can you go back to your number slide? Because I'm trying to make sense. There's 2 slides, right?
Yes.
So this slide, your net profits at the end of April 20.
April 2020, yeah.
Okay, so that's $60?
Yeah, I kept that. That's the profit because we're only taking 10% of the.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
That's
I understood your reasoning. My concern is that there are 4 of you, and there's a lot of labor involved. I mean, the overwhelming impression that I get from this business model is someone is going to expend tremendous amount of time and energy taking photos and uploading those, right? That was a moment I didn't understand, and I also am not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad that you asked that actually, because the way that thrift stores work, Alec and I got to see this firsthand when we went to the thrift store and started volunteering there, is they have volunteers who sort through the clothes and go through everything already. So these clothes are already being dealt with, they're already being sorted, and they also have to find the value of that clothing item. They have a chart, they have everything there for the worker. So basically, all we're going to do is going to have the volunteer take a picture of that item once it's been deemed that it should be something that's sold online as opposed to something that's sold in store.
All right, so I want to.
Okay, so I think what you're asking is, you're thinking we're taking the pictures and we're doing the work.
No, somewhere someone's taking the
yes,
pictures.
and
Somewhere
so-
someone's
so
uploading
again-
them, categorizing them, filing them,
Yes.
posting them. That is a monster load of
Yes,
labor.
so thrift stores already do the sorting through it, and they're taking, remember, 90% of the profits. So this is the money we're making off of this, including all of our expenditures and everything that we have to pay for. So the thrift stores will be making a lot more money than that, than what's showed here, because they're doing all of the work of taking the pictures and uploading that. And through our platform, it's been made simple, where all you have to do is upload a picture, click a couple tags, and then you can post it. So it's really not going to take that long, because we already worked through that with our prototyping and figuring out what will make it easiest for the thrift stores.
Okay, I think for me, for this to be meaningful, I would want to understand the revenues and the expenses, how you're deriving net profits. The net profits don't look substantial enough for someone to actually pursue this vocationally. That's just the moment for me where I'm like, there's a moment I just don't get. Okay, here.
So basically, Dr. Kelly is right. Your business model needs to be clear. Business model is revenue, less costs, less expenses, then you get a profit. Costs must also be very well articulated. You have to have your fixed costs, and you have to have your variable costs. You have to show your break-even point. Doesn't matter if it's scaling, but it's not making money. Your breaking even month 1 is super aggressive, because how do you break even month 1? When you open up, when you have all these costs of setting up. But go back to your slide on revenue of 5 million. You had a slide where you talk of revenue of 5 million.
Oh, that's $5 million is spent in the thrift store, in thrift stores annually. So that's just over the
Okay.
United States as a
So
whole.
what's your commission?
Our commission is going to be 10%.
So 10% of,
10%
Half a million.
of the sales that we make.
so $500,000.
So that would be if we were able to tap into all thrift stores. We're not.
Which you won't do day one. So hopefully you'll do it somewhere, right?
Mhm.
But month one, you probably won't hit a lot of that because you're still barely talking about your Facebook ads and you're trying to really get the word around. It's going to take a while.
Right.
So that's what Dr. Kelly said. Your business model, your revenue model needs to support itself, and right now it's not clear how it's all connected.
Right. Actually, when I was going through the expenses for this, primarily our expenses are actually going to be in advertising and also some miscellaneous costs in the materials that are needed to ship the items. So, outside of shipping the items, it's advertising.
Okay.
And
So that's good point. Very good. In advertising, particularly in Facebook, you talk of customer acquisition cost. Every dollar, how many customers does he give you? Do you have that number?
We don't have that number.
Exactly. It will take a while for you to calibrate because you're in Thrift. You are in a very nice, sweet niche area, extra clothes, really good. But it takes a while for it to calibrate and for you to know if I spend $1, I make 10 cents from it or I make 30 cents from it. As you scale, it gets better, but it will take a while. It can't be month one or month two.
right.
Right.
The actually the reason why I have it so positive here is because I was minimizing those Facebook advertisement costs for later. So basically, at the beginning, we're going to start very lean by doing the poster and word of mouth by having the thrift stores almost advertise for us because we're also benefiting their profit. So that's why this looks so positive because I wanted to keep the expenses really small when I was doing it. In addition to that, I mean, since advertising is our primary expense, if I kind of essentially cut it out for a short period of time, with the exception of things like posters and smaller expenses like that, that's why it looks so aggressive at the beginning. And also towards the end, it looks like there's not that much potential. But this is still the year one, and I kept the numbers for the amount of what we would be selling very minute because I did not want to over-exaggerate what our potential could be. Because there is like potential, there's definitely a need for people to be able to buy these items, and there's definitely a need for people to be able to buy these items. And even though we won't be able to get that traction right away, we will be able to get that in the future, and that's when we'll start making a lot more money than as can be seen in April 2020.
Yeah, so question for me is, so you've identified, a couple of problems, right, for both stores and consumers, and, I see where the model is going through, but we're asking questions around how's it going to work and how's it going to be a sustainable business. So just some questions for me around assumptions. So in your year one, like April 20 revenue, that's assuming, like, I know you said you assumed a kind of a smaller number of sales, but like what's the rough number and like average, revenue per item and like your commission? So I'm trying to get a sense of what does that number mean? Like how many transactions, how many stores, like in April 2020?
Right. Well, like we said in the objectives part, we are hoping to have 20 thrift stores by the end of the year. And we are also hoping to have 100 individual transactions. And corresponding with that, that's just like that's the really basis of what I'm talking about here. When I was inputting these numbers, the amount of the price that we would be charging for these items would approximately be like $20 for general clothing items, maybe $30 for something more accessories, and $20 for shoes. Those major categories were all like pretty simple like that. And so we actually, as you can see, I really kept it low because these numbers, if we're making $20 off of each item and the revenue shows that we're only getting maybe $800, that I'm trying to keep it low, assuming that we're not going to have as many sales in the first year.
Gotcha. No, so that's helpful. So just to get that that indication. Do you have any expenses that cover your technology, right? So you have a technology platform. So you mentioned expenses from the perspective of advertising and shipping. What about like running and your platform and the talent to kind of set that up and make sure your technology is up and running?
Yeah, so we put in an initial investment for our website, which was $250. On top of, I think it ended up being $35 for 2 years of having the domain and having server protection on that, as well as having a back-end server for that where everything can be stored and run from. So as far as technology, that's around $300 that we've put in so far, and we won't have to do much in the next 2 years as far as expenses go on the technology side.
Okay.
Okay, a few questions for you. So have you done any research to see what is the average thrift store transaction amount?
I don't think we have, no.
Okay, because it strikes me that if you're buying a shirt for $5, very quickly your shipping costs can greatly exceed the per piece sale cost, which sort of throws a kind of
Right.
wrench into the whole system, right?
Yes.
So how do you
Yeah.
how do you break through that mindset that says I'm paying $4 for the shirt and $6 to ship it?
So we didn't explore that number exactly, but on our survey we had a question that said, if you were to spend $25 at a thrift store, how much would you be willing to pay for shipping? Surprisingly, majority of people were willing to pay between $3.50 and $5 for a $25 order, and we're hoping that people will buy more on this. But as far as like a $5, we're hoping that it can be pretty cheap, as you can just kind of put a shirt in like an envelope and ship that out, and those are not very expensive at shipping companies.
Also, in addition, our competitors, the way that they do their shipping pricing is actually pretty similar to how we want to do our shipping pricing. So we're keeping it fairly low, but like it is, and when I say competitors, I mean people who are, not people, organizations that are selling secondhand items. So they're charging that same amount of shipping, and they have had success with that. So we're planning on doing that, especially with the, and another thing from our interviews, we are going to offer discounts for larger purchases, because from our interviews, we learned that people are very willing to buy more items if it means that they get little to no shipping.
Sure. So you spend $100, shipping's on us, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Right. Another question for you. Web-based, any thought on creating or going more app-based, since the primary driver of people's web surfing now is on mobile devices as opposed to computers?
Yeah, so the great thing about our website is it's completely 100% mobile friendly. Everything is designed to fit whatever size screen you are using. So whether that's a phone, a tablet, or a desktop computer, the website will fit to that and be fully
Okay.
workable there.
One final thought. It seems to me scale is obviously has to be your friend in this business. You're not making a lot on every transaction, so you need lots of transactions. It would strike me that the way you're going to scale fastest is by getting connected with networks of thrift stores. The onesies and twosies in this town and the next, that's going to be a tough business model to ramp up fast enough. But if you can get connected to significant, whether it's denominational, church-affiliated kinds of organizations that have thrift stores throughout the country, or networks of thrift stores throughout the country, that to me seems the only way you're going to be able to scale fast enough to make something like this really take off.
I had a similar thought that maybe you want to work through churches. Something like that. I mean, I love thrift stores. Jeff knows I go to them all the time. I just like to hunt. It's fun. But it's super time consuming, so I do it really strategically. When I think about the vast disorganization of your typical thrift store, everything starts to break down for me. And the concerns that I have that I've mentioned, the labor involved in this, which I know you're saying that there's not much labor, but even taking things and shipping them, that's labor. Getting stuff photographed, uploaded, all of these things, and you've essentially built in no margin for yourself. If you go the route of offering a discount on a $100 sale, the second the weight starts to increase in the shipping, you're going to be crushed by your shipping expenses if you try to absorb that. I bought a shirt recently on Poshmark, and I think it was just a little shirt, right? It was actually not that light when it showed up. Cost $6. So right away, coming out of the gates, I think your shipping estimates are a little bit low. But if you're passing the cost along, I mean, I would say that's not an area that you can be aggressive, because you don't control the shipping expense. That's going to be some third-party provider, and you're going to have to just interact with them on their terms, right? But I think the idea is a really interesting idea, and I really think that you're correct in articulating that there's a pain point, right, for these stores. They have, I mean, I've seen it, just these tons and tons and tons of stuff that they don't have the capacity to interact with or to move. So tons of lost opportunity. And I think we're all kind of articulating the same thing. We're having a hard time kind of seeing how it's going to play out in such a way that you could actually really make a go of it as more than something like a hobby, you know. And you may have such a long lead time. Maybe you'll be doing something else. But like, I'm kind of playing this in my mind. Is this something that you could do, and it would be substantially demanding enough, but it would compensate you so that it would be like, you know, a real business for you, where you wouldn't need to be trying to generate income somewhere else. And
Right.
it looks like that ramp time is going to be so long.
Can I go off of something you were saying, just real quick? So to go off of your concern again with the volunteers doing the work, again, our pain point is that we're getting rid of their excess inventory. So yes, it will be labor intensive for them, and they will have to do the shipping themselves. But again, these are sales that they otherwise wouldn't have. So any profit is more than what they would have had without our platform, if that makes sense.
Okay. So it sounds like your startup costs are really low,
Mhm.
according to you, 250. So what's stopping me from replicating your idea?
Right. So what we've done is we've done the research onto this, and we have the traction with the bridge, and we're offering this exclusively. And once we start gaining more traction with our marketing, it's going to be a place where the thrift stores don't have to do any of their work themselves. So they are ready to partner with us, and they're ready to use this rather than having to create their own online market presence. We're doing it for them.
We got not much time left, so two quick thoughts is, one quick thought, I guess. So if a store can't sell something in the store, what makes you think that's going to sell online?
It's reaching a wider audience. So if it's just in store, you're probably not going to travel more than like 5 miles to get to a thrift store, whereas putting it online, you're reaching all of America.
And I like the fact that you've been talking with the bridge folks. They know what they're doing, so
Mhm.
that
They're great.
provides some good encouragement.
Thank you.
We're going to take a couple minutes to do some scoring, and then the next group will start.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry, they had the wrong thing. That was for, we used this for another competition 2 weeks ago. So we're supposed to use their time, they were in time. Ignore it. Yeah. You can score them high on that. Yeah. Yeah. If they go. I'm just gonna assume it's all good unless I figured somebody else will keep them. Yeah.
Are you expecting this?
First place at $3,000. Want it? Of course. They were taught that. You guys can use these as benchmarks for the next one, so we're not going to collect them from you. Yeah, so in case it's a tiebreaker at the end, you guys can use that as your evaluating criteria. I'm not going to tell, I want to keep them as benchmarks for that. Because even if you score one from the other, you're going to keep looking back. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You said there's 16. There you go, it's just 5 more to go. Yeah. All right, Air Toys, you guys are going to get ready in a minute. You got the microphones? So both sides represented.
Thank you. No, sir, give it to him.
All right, guys, you guys can take your seats. We're going to get started with our second pitch now. Just to keep us on target, the time, 3:45. All right, whenever you guys are ready.
All right.
All right, whenever you guys are ready.
Good afternoon. We are Air Toys. My name is Daniel Reiling, co-founder and computer science major.
Hi, Brian Vanderlee, co-founder, business major, computing minor.
Hello, Michael Philippi, computer science major, business minor.
Hi, I'm Reagan Furlow, and I am a co-founder, and I am a entrepreneurial management major.
Hi, I'm Sarah Paschke. I'm majoring in business communications and minoring in marketing. And I'm a co-founder of Air Toys, and this is our story. So has anyone ever been on a plane with a screaming child? Anyone? Show of hands. So recently I was flying home, and I was sitting next to a child and a mother, a 2-year-old, and she was super organized. She had a ton of different Ziploc bags full of unique toys and even colored tape, which she attached to the tray table in front of her. And she made an imaginary little parking lot for his Hot Wheels. So she entertained him just enough to allow me to take a nap. A little while later, I woke up from some turbulence, and his Hot Wheels were falling all over the floor. I was even scrambling to get them for them, and it was a little frustrating. So, sorry. So I came up with the idea Air Toys, and the toys would be different to the toy industry. It's a niche market. It would be tray table attachable toys that would suction cup or magnetize to the tray table in front of the children. And this is our problem.
So the problem to traveling with children is that it's going to be stressful for everybody. So it's going to be stressful for the parent because they're always thinking about when their child is going to have their next meltdown. And it's going to be stressful for the people around them in case that they are sitting next to that child. So the problem with kids on an airplane is that they are constantly wanting to have some sort of entertainment. And entertainment is the hardest thing to do on an airplane for a child because they are always constantly wanting something to do and they need something in front of them physically. So our solution to this problem is that we are finding a way to have, like Sarah said, toys that have a tray table that are able to not fall down and that they are also able to keep them entertained during the whole entire flight. This is not only convenient for parents, but it's convenient for children and it's convenient for other people around. So the convenience factor, it gives two options for the parents. So the first option is that with these toys, it gives the parents an opportunity to be able to relax. So if they want to give their children these toys, they can relax, they can read a book, they can read a magazine, they can even watch a movie. The second option is that if they want to give these children their toys, they can also play with them and be able to kind of create scenarios with them because these toys are themed, such as like dinosaurs, so they're able to create scenarios in their head so that they're able to play with them in the meantime and kind of making it an enjoyable experience for everybody. And there are also many other options with these toys. So with the app that we have made, there are also options to order a puzzle with some of these toys and kind of use their cognitive abilities on the airplane. And also they are able to download educational games so that the parent and the child can also interact. So it turns a stressful experience into an enjoyable experience for everybody.
So the design of our toys would be similar to this tray table, but a little different. It would be more of a kid-friendly material. We're thinking like silicone toys that would be 1.5 inches to 2.3 inches. They would have magnets on the bottom or suction cups to slide around and kind of attach to the tray. And they would come in collectible and themed options. So we would have like dinosaurs and volcanoes in one and doctor equipment in another. And the uniqueness about our toys is the tray table attaches very easily and they would slide around and just there's nothing out there like it.
So as far as direct competition goes for our product, we really don't have any direct competition. There's nobody else in the toy industry that's actually doing what we're doing. Like Sarah said, we have a niche market, and inside of this niche market, it's pretty wide open. So the form of competition that we have is actually indirect competition. And right now, we would be competing with the whole toy industry. But like I said, because of that niche market, that gives us a little corner of the toy industry that we could grow in because there's nobody else inside of that market that's doing what we're doing. The next form of competition we have is technology. Nowadays, parents just buy a tablet, put it in their kid's lap, and tell them to go at it. But a lot of the times, the kids get bored and they want to do something new. Plus, parents don't like giving their children phones and tablets to be on them all day. But technology, we can wrap that into our product as well because we can sell games or do toys inside of that too. And our last competition is Amazon. Amazon sells toys, so what keeps parents from going onto Amazon and actually buying a toy from there? But again, we can actually use that to our advantage because we can put our toy on Amazon and get our name out there and get more traction for that.
So for our attraction, we did roughly 50 interviews, went out into the public to talk to people. We've gone to airlines. We've actually gone out and talked to people here. We've talked to families at grocery stores. We've talked to a lot of different people. So we pulled a couple quotes from there that we thought were relevant to what we were doing. And one of them says, they like that the kids can be in control and pick what they want and watch videos of each toy being used, but it's also a very convenient package because they're always on the go. So we had a family of 3 kids always traveling, and she said having that package that's easy to go, pick up, it's light, kid can carry it, parents don't have to, and it's easy to go. They thought that was the best feature because they want the kid to be able to go on this app, be able to look at everything they want without having the parents there 24/7 watching them. And then another quote we had from another interview was from a family that had 2 young kids. We had a 2 and a 4-year-old, and they said They would reduce the stress and anxiety of having to pack kids' personal toys and fearing that they might lose them or have to replace them. This keeps everything together because we'd sell 3 toys per package. Keep it all enclosed, it would zip up, have a handle, it's on the go. It's easy to take with you and less stress for the parents knowing that the kid can carry it for them. Our financials. Our goal in this first year is to sell 20,000 units. And as our unit, it is our package. For the first 3 months, our goal is 15,000 in profit based on selling 1,000 toy packages, which would include the 3 toys, the tray table, and if in addition they add puzzles or games on top of that, it'd also be included. Then for the next 3 months, we don't just want to double, we want to keep going up. So we want to go up by 4. We want to get to 60,000 by selling 4,000 packages. Our margins on each one, it's $25 for the package. We take 15 of that in profit. The other 10 is between variable and fixed costs. Our fixed costs would be our overhead, and that could be through our partners with our toy manufacturers, but our variable costs would be our marketing. It would be our labor and materials that would be coming in for us. Another thing on top of this would be we would have a rewards program. Each purchase earns you a percentage in points to use on your next order. So if you bought 1 package, we give you 25 points. Once you get to a certain amount of point value, you can use that and get 10% off an order, 20% off an order, depending on how many points you earn. So it is not just buying the products and that's it. We're trying to tie in a rewards program to get you to come back to us. So you don't just buy 1 package, you buy multiple.
So for the timeline, we have create them in 2019 because we do not have any toys as of yet. In 2020, we would add kid snacks, and they would kind of like fit in the toys. Like the volcano would have little gummies falling out of them, and then we would partner as well with major retailers and get our tray tables and toy easy carry-on bags into Walmart, Target, possibly bookstores, and even Hallmark.
So this right here is going to be a mock presentation of what our web-based application will look like. So right here, we will have our branding logo of Air Toys and our slogan, Toys for on the Fly, on the loading page. After that, you will be brought to the main page, which is unique and separate from other e-commerce sites because it gives the parents a choice to pick the toys for their children or to have the children pick the toys for themselves with the parents' security being that the kids can't buy them. So focusing on the parents first, parents would click their tab and be brought to this page where they could see specials, featured items, and even categories like puzzles, Power Rangers, Hot Wheels, etc. So let's say you want to go with the puzzle tray. You'll then be brought here where you have different puzzles, and then clicking on which item you wanted, you'll be brought to a product page where you could see the price, description, and even reviews, and then add it to your cart. And then you would check out. Now from the user interface for the children, the child would either have to have your username if you have an account or your email address to send the list to the parent so the parent can purchase it securely. And it mimics just the same thing as the parent's side would do. They would be able to see specials, featured, and categories, and then pick what they want. And then send it to their parents. Their app would also have all their features, such you could focus on your account, go to the home page, kids or parents. You could log into your account. And from your account, you could choose your preferences, view your child's cart, view your own view your own cart, and even go over your security settings. And that's it.
Does anyone have any questions?
I'll ask a really simple question that we could have asked last time for the first group as well. How much are you asking for?
I know.
to invest to invest in our company. 20,000.
All right. Okay, so my question was more just trying to understand the product. Right now, I'm not clear whether I buy it at duty free, or I buy it in the plane, or I buy it before I leave, or so exactly how does it work?
So right now we're going to make the toys ourselves, probably work with a manufacturing place, and then in the future we would work ourselves into the retailer shops and also airports, maybe get a kiosk and sell them at airports. So it'd be buy them, get on the plane, and they'd be collectible toys, so people would always want to get the new toy that's out.
So I had a question on the financials. So you had some numbers on the financials page. If you could go to it around the amount sold and the breakdown, by months and your margin, which is good. But what about expenses? Do you have a view on expenses? Because you have quite a bit. So I'm not seeing them unless I missed them.
We figured for our expenses, so we'd have for each package $10 would be in our costs, and it would be split between our fixed and variable costs. So the cost would be between the labor, the material used, and the advertising for it.
So that's the manufacturing of each of the toys. But what about other business costs and expenses?
Considering we're still like looking just to partner, but we want to make them ourselves, so the cost would actually be split between us with using our labor to make them.
Right.
And then we'd sell through our app.
So who's creating the app, and so there's cost for software development. So do you have talent that's doing that, or do you have to hire somebody for that? So that's an expense as well if you don't have that talent.
We would be doing most of it, developing it ourselves, using that interface that we created, and then coding it to make it actually on the market. That way you can have it on your phone or tablet and take it with you anywhere, so you'd have access to it.
Okay, so then the other labor, so there isn't a salary for resources, so you have to to develop the relationships with the retailers, until you get to that point to develop those relationships. There's a lot of time to spend and kind of tell them your process and your pitch and all that. So that's going to be just you without a salary basically. So there's zero expense from that.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to add on to that. So you're right. I like your analysis. It's great. You have a clear target, 20,000 units at $25. So that's good. You speak of fixed and variable, but you don't say them. Do you have those numbers? What's fixed and what's variable in the 25? Say 10 and 15?
We don't have the exact numbers, but so for our fixed and variable, it would be depending on who we partner with, depending on which manufacturer and what the cost is per material.
Sure.
Would be based on that.
Understood.
It was a rough estimate for that.
Understood. So then the next question is, do you have a break-even point?
We do not, because these are the rough numbers since we don't have a product yet to know what our material costs would be and our labor.
So
These are
you
what
should be able to calculate it from the math you're describing here. So I'll give you an example. If you have a fixed cost of $1 million, you're saying, I'll keep making $1 from each. That means after 1 million units, I'll break even.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have these numbers, you'll be able to calculate it, because that will give you a sense of where you stand in your business model. It goes back to your business model. It'll also help you think through whether selling in units is the right way, or should you be renting the toys. So that's why the costs and the revenues, when we say to these, we refer to them as the business model. Without those, you can't really say why you're going this way, because you may be making money here, or you may be losing money here, you still don't know.
Yeah. The one route we did go down, we did want to rent to start. But through our interviews, we found out that kids get too attached and would not want to give it up. So that's why we wanted to flat out just be sales, so we don't hold any liabilities of that too. If they take it on a trip and lose it, we didn't want to be liable for it. So we wanted to just sell to the family, and then once they have it, they own it.
Okay, good.
So what kind of analysis have you done in terms of how many small children travel on airplanes? What's your market?
Our market is,
How big is your market, I guess is my question.
well, the toy industry is $1 billion, so we're trying to get into that market, but with
Right.
kids.
But on the plane, how many kids are on the plane? So I wonder whether your market is too tight. My hunch is that there are, let's say, at least 10 kids in a car or minivan for every one that's on an airplane every given day. It could be closer to 100 to 1. And I wonder whether, by just focusing on the airline market, you're really sort of narrowing your market too greatly. The other question I've got is, let me ask a real simple question. Have any of you traveled with small children? You have? Okay. Why don't you hand the microphone to her? So as I looked at some of your sample things on the app interface, marbles, playing cards, blocks, that doesn't strike me as something that I, as a parent, am going to be taking a nap with the 2-year-old having next to them. So I guess my point is, I wonder whether the toys that are being selected, if the idea is to provide a kind of stress-free environment for the adult, both the parent with the child as well as the ones surrounding the child in other seats, you might want to think about what's that going to look like and do some really focused interviews with parents who have traveled with small children. And one final question for you, then I'll hand the microphone to somebody else. Are you designing the toys as well, or are you simply looking at more off-the-shelf kinds of toys and your value add is packaging them in a way with the magnetic tray?
So I do want to say to the marbles was a bad choice, but the blocks could potentially have magnets in them and be able to stay on the tray table. We're kind of reinventing like every toy that you could think of and putting like suction cup or a magnet, and it'd be like sliding and it would be different. And then what was your last question? Are we designing them?
Are you designing and creating the toys, or are you finding other vendors taking their toys, putting them into your system?
We would be designing them. I mean, I have them in my head. I came up with the idea on the airplane about a year ago, so I didn't quite draw them out, but we would be working towards designing them.
So I thought it was a really interesting presentation. So that was great. And I actually really liked the idea because I've been on millions of flights with little kids. Some of these flights, like where a child cried for like 5 and 6 hours, it can be really grueling for other passengers. The story you told started to break down really quickly for me. And it broke down first with how you spoke into the space. Your perspective on the competition was kind of all over the place. Like you sometimes were straddling, we're going to be a toy manufacturer targeting other manufacturers. Then you just kind of opened it up and thought that Amazon was going to be a competitor, but then you thought you could sell on Amazon. And at that point, it just became really clear that this is really unclean as far as the vetting process is concerned. I would have been curious to hear about if you had actually visited a toy store to look at the travel packet. There are toys that are available like that. They've been available since I was in 4th grade. I remember because my mom used to take me to the store and we'd buy them. So 100% there's a market for travelers with children. That would have been something compelling to see in your slideshow. I think the idea of something that magnetizes and sticks to a tray table or something you put on top of a tray table is a super good idea. I actually think it's really interesting. I think it would have been nice if you had some kind of prototype or something. The idea that you could say, we're going to design them, get them manufactured, sell 20,000 units coming out of the gates in the first... There are just so many unaddressed moments in this process that it's really difficult to evaluate. And the other moment... You know, you listed off a bunch of major global retailers, like you come out of the gates talking about selling through Walmart. People fight, literally fight tooth and nail to get viewing time in front of a Walmart purchaser. That is so, like, just aggressively competitive. That space that you'd want to enter into, that's not casual. So thinking about how you might go at this, I think that idea that was mentioned, selling on Amazon, lots of essentially no-name companies have pitched on Amazon. Amazon takes a huge chunk out of that sales price. but that could be an idea. But I think, like, I mean, the magnet-back toys, that to me is really interesting, but my first thing would be, you know, when we were growing up, there were magnet-back toys that we put on the refrigerator, tons of them. So are there magnet-back toys out there? Are you going to bring some new kind of magnet-back toy that's going to somehow be more fun for your average kid? I don't know. These are my questions.
So to answer everything you said, I did walk into a store in actually Midway Airport most recently, and they do have a toy store there. There were no toys at all that were what we're describing. And also there's not like a whole line of toys that people could collect, and they would always be travel toys. So it would be completely new. I know you said there's magnet toys out there, but I have not seen them as shopping with my goddaughter recently. I have not seen anything like that on the shelves in Target, Walmart, anything like that.
Yeah, no. So just to build on that, I mean, kind of great thought and idea around here. Here's a problem. Let me look through it and have some ideas on what that looked like. I think part of it too is a little bit of additional time, like doing done the interviews, which is great. But then you've done visiting some stores, which is also great. But one of your target possibilities was to put things on Amazon. And as a professor was talking through, I just did a quick search for like airplane toys on Amazon, and there's a Fun and Fly, foldable travel tray that's won the 2018 National Parenting Product Awards, right? So there's a product in there, and it's got a tray, and it's foldable, and it kind of size tray. So there's something around, like validating the idea further around, what's out in the marketplace, because you've done some research, interviews, and then visiting stores, but even in one of the marketplaces that you're seeking to use, like within just a few clicks, was able to find kind of a competitive product. So just something to consider there to refine the model further.
So just to build on that, the other thing is making products is hard. Making products that will sell even harder. Making products that will sell to make money to pay for people is so hard. But the reason why it's so hard is not because of anything. It's because there's always this innovation missing in the way people do products. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounded like you are tiptoeing around it, but you're saying you are innovators. You're trying to innovate the space and coming up with new ways of engaging the child through a product. But I'd say if that's what you're thinking, it's great. Absolutely, I think you have a great path. Keep going, speed up. This is good. It's just that it's not going to be a lot of products. You're going to have to settle on one, maybe two. And I've seen students even here in Fusion 59 make a product and they bring it to Dr. Kelly's point, a prototype. When you make a prototype, that's when the rubber meets the road, because then people react to it, kids react to it. So I encourage you to think about that in your design. But the other thing I'd also encourage you to look at in terms of products and in terms of design and innovation is think about the meaning of the products. Products tend to have a meaning. And people don't think about that when they're innovating. So you may think you're making an air toy, but may turn out to be the kids' birthday meaning. So you think in terms of, as you innovate, as you think about innovating, think about attaching these emotional meanings to these products' feel. And then that will really differentiate you from the backpacks in Amazon or from the shops in Midway, because now you are bringing some new dimension. Even if it's the same thing, it now has a different meaning, more exciting, parents will love it. Honeymoon product, I don't know. You can even include adults in these exciting high school kids who want to do PlayStation. And all of a sudden, your toys and scope change in terms of what you're trying to do. Time? 2 more minutes.
So two other potential markets for you to think about. And let me preface it by saying a bit of a short story. Our 15th wedding anniversary, Leah and I hopped on a plane from Minneapolis to Los Angeles. And we had the joy of sitting next to a mother and her 3 small children, which meant that Leah and I eventually had a child on our lap during this flight, which was really nice. I mean, they were a great family, wonderful people. But we spent the entire flight trying to keep the kid from kicking the people in front, even though we had just met them when we sat down on the plane. So it seemed to me that there's two other potential markets. The first one that comes to mind is the airlines themselves. You can buy an overpriced bad sandwich and boxed lunch on an airplane for $15. Well, why not think about including your package as something that somebody can sell in real time on the plane? That's when you need it. That's when you realize you should have thought about it ahead of time, and that probably also then helps get away from the issue of competitors on Amazon, because Amazon does you no good when you're somewhere over Wichita. The second potential market are grandparents. Grandparents. They always want to get grandkids something, and they're always looking to help their children as well. So, two other thoughts for you.
We have thought about what you've said, and also having it on possibly trains and cars. Yeah.
I mean, on the East Coast, there. If you think about, we don't use trains, but on the East Coast, millions of people are on the train every day. So. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to say is for designing toys, just the potential liability that comes through this reality that children put toys in their mouth. So that would be one of those things.
That's why we didn't want to rent them, because they get dirty and.
But I don't know if they need FDA approval or something. I don't know if it's like that.
Oh, we would have to go through all of that. Yes.
Maybe that's a secondary goal, is to design your own toys. I would try and get something up and running by whether it's taking toys off the shelf basically or modifying them to fit your platform better. I think you're biting off a pretty big chunk of stuff if you want to design the tray, get the company running, market it, create
The tray would
tech,
be more
and
simple than
also-
this.
Right, but I'm just saying that, I mean, all the design that goes into the things that are shown on this tray right here, that's a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of expertise, and a lot of regulatory things you got to think about. Thank you.
Take a few minutes while the judges score. The next team can come up and begin preparing your drink.
There are becoming less and less people in the room as we go on. Yeah, it's like all the groups are dipping out after they present.
I'm going to be using yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Senti. I'm Ben, computer science major.
I'm Bob Schaff.
And I'm Kason Wingerden. And I'd like to start by telling you a little story. So I recently turned 21 in the last couple of months. And I was a good kid growing up and didn't really have much experience with alcohol prior to my 21st birthday, except the month before, the Christmas break before. My dad and I got a chance to try drinks in the comfort of our own home and be able to experience things that I normally wouldn't be able to. So I tried a beer, I tried a wine, and nothing was really resonating with me. And then my dad and I started creating cocktails in our home. And that really struck a chord with me, and that kind of leads us to why this company has come to fruition, which is called Your Drink. Your Drink is a premium cocktail tasting party experience where one of our Your Drink representatives would come into your home and serve you cocktails and be able to show you the history, how to make them, and really give you a fun experience with you and your friends. And now Bob can tell you a little bit about why this is happening.
Yeah, so a lot of teams come in here today, trying to solve a problem. Well, ours isn't necessarily a problem. It's more of an opportunity. There's a huge market, in alcohol right now. Alcohol sales continue to grow every year. The market is, hundreds of billions of dollars in the U.S. And what's especially big right now is premium alcohol. That market is growing at a rate of 23.6%. And that's really where we see ourselves as a premium alcohol service. And obviously, on top of alcohol, we provide experience. Also, growing right now is online sales. People are becoming more comfortable ordering alcohol online. That's not traditionally something that's ordered online, but in the last 3 years, it's grown 32% per year. So that also helps us know, what we're trying to do is going to work, and there's a lot of opportunity for us in this market. So trends in the industry today: microbreweries, tasting rooms, and wine clubs. All kind of like taste testing things are really, really big right now. They're growing between 15 and 28%, depending on what numbers you look at. But the real thing here is that people want to go and try the alcohol. They don't want to just, buy it, not knowing whether they like it, whether they don't, whatnot. So giving them the opportunity to taste different kinds of alcohol is really big, and that's something that there's a big market for, and so that's what we're trying to tap into. Also, disposable income continues to rise. It's at an all-time high right now. So as people have more money, more disposable income to spend, something like our company, what we offer, becomes more viable because they have that extra money to spend on a fun experience. And finally, there is no other company in this market. There are companies that deliver alcohol, but no one that brings the in-home taste testing experience that we bring. Another company called Tastefully Simple does this with food. So they come into homes, taste test like different kinds of food, but no one does this with alcohol. And now Michael's going to show you a little bit about our website.
All right, so I'm going to show you a little walkthrough of the website that we have. So Your Drink, delicious drinks in the comfort of your own home. So how it works, we have 3 steps. First, you'll pick your box, and each box contains 3 to 4 different drinks. We have a whiskey box, a gin box, and a rum box. And then step 2, you'll pick your party date and your party location. And then step 3, the hosts will arrive on your party date, and then they will take care of the rest, and you'll be able to enjoy a fun experience. So here are some of our products. We got the whiskey box. You can see the different drinks. You have a Manhattan, Old Fashioned, Whiskey Sour, and a Sazerac. And then you'll have to set up your appointment. So you pick your date, and then the time you'd like to have it, and then you'd give us your info, your phone number, email, address, and then you'll be given confirmation emails and a text before your party date to confirm that it is indeed happening. So,
yeah, so basically the simple basic stuff of any website, you know, scheduling, booking an event. Of course, this is just the minimum viable product we would have. Of course, we'd go more further into detail and have other features like reviews of drinks and customizing parties and stuff. But right now, I think we have the main thing that our website needs, which is being able to book an event and customize and order drinks.
Michael, go to full screen, bottom right, and then go to the part 2. Just go through the slides. Yeah, there you go. So, you know, we've been talking a lot about we hope to do this, we want to do this, in the future we'll do this, but that's not really an accurate way of talking about this company because we've actually hosted 2 events so far. Last weekend we hosted 2 events doing the whiskey box, and as soon as we get this video set up, we'll show you a little bit about what happened at one of these events, and then we'll talk a little bit about it.
Just to feel something. All my thoughts are still with you, but you said that I'll explain to you when you got nothing left, you got nothing left to lose.
So over this semester, I've been able to kind of become a little bit of an alcohol expert on my 4 select cocktails that I had to learn for this party. So basically what I did is, you know, walked the guests through, you know, what goes into making a Manhattan, what is the history of Manhattan, where did it come from, and to have this fun experience where I get to make the drink, I get to show them how to make their own drink, and we left them with the recipes and the ingredients afterwards so they can, you know, do it in the future. So now talking a little bit now about the numbers, we've been able to really calculate how much it's going to cost for each party based on the box we've selected. So for example, this is the whiskey box, and these are all the ingredients that would go into the whiskey box. And we've been able to calculate that at the price of $85. The other costs are kind of a half split between a one-time cost of the ice molds and the glassware suitcase and some more month-to-month costs of replenishing, which is napkins and kind of bags of sugar. And then we have accessory costs as well, which kind of make up our glasses, our shakers, our spoons, which we'll have our stock of, but at the events, we're gonna have the option to be able to sell these shakers, these cups to them if they wanna keep and hold on to them afterwards. So we'll need to replenish them as well. Getting into the revenue, we believe that charging $300 for the rum box and the gin box is a fair price, and then also $350 for the whiskey box. And we also have listed the pricing for the shakers, the spoons, and the glasses as well.
Yep. So what comes next? Obviously, you guys want to know what we're going to do with the money, should we get it, and where do we go from today on? So first thing is we really want to start our marketing. We want to get on Facebook and Instagram, get on social media, build a presence there, start advertising, especially Facebook. That's really where our target market is. We're targeting 30 to 65-year-olds, upper class, middle to upper class adults. So a lot of those people are going to be on Facebook because it's typically less of younger people on that platform. And Instagram's nice for pictures and videos and maybe the younger end of that target market, in the 30 to 40-year-olds. We'd like to hire a professional host. We obviously can do it. Case here is somewhat of an expert, but as we grow, have more parties and more different types of alcohol, hiring someone that is going to be able to really know this and really do a good job with it every time is something that we have to do. And we also want to build inventory. We need to have the inventory to be able to have all the alcohol at every event. Buying more in bulk will save us on some costs, so using the money to build that up will help. And especially down the line, we want to add boxes to our platform. So right now we just have like 3 cocktail boxes, but eventually we'd like to add, like craft beers, different wines, so just a wider variety for people to choose from. Next slide. And so here's our projections for the next year. To start out, we only project like 3 or 4 number of parties a month for our first few months because that's going to be more like family, friends, just like word of mouth, just us kind of talking to people, getting us through that way. But then as we get into the fall, after we've been marketing for several months, we think it'll start to take off a little bit as we gain traction with different people and on social media. And so the revenue is based off of that $300 cost of a box, and the one's $350, and then also a small amount added for the amount of like glassware we sell afterwards, because in the parties we hosted there was a lot of interest in people actually buying like the shakers, the glassware that they used. So we only added a small amount so that revenue could actually be higher should they buy more, but that'll vary from a party to party basis. And then the costs you've seen, and then so that leaves our profit before taxes.
So overall, we feel that through our over 100 interviews, hundreds of surveys that we've sent out, that we have been able to craft an experience for our guests. We are not here a company to just give cocktails to people. We're not in the alcohol industry. We're in the party industry. We really believe that we are creating a fun experience where you learn something and get to spend quality time with the people that you care about. Thank you.
Questions?
All right, it's fitting that came after the traveling with children presentation.
Yeah.
That's my best line right there. That's all I got. No. There's a lot I want to say, but I'll start with this. It does strike me that you're going to want to think about how do you brand. You're selling an experience, right? So with a couple of parties you had, people wanted to buy the shakers, the glassware, et cetera, et cetera. You want that emblazoned with your logo. So you want to factor that in, but of course you can easily mark up the shakers and things. If someone wants to buy a shaker from you, they're not looking for what's the cheapest thing they can find. They want yours because of the experience.
Exactly.
So you can happily mark that up pretty heftily, I think, but you'll want to brand it somehow so you get the opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 2 questions. One's about the product, and the other one's going to be about the revenue model. So let's start with the product. I had you talk like several things until you got me all in a twist. First, I thought your products were these whiskey and brand and rum boxes. But just when I was holding on those and beginning to think deep about them, you flipped onto the experience. So right now I don't know, because your product is what I would like to know. What do you what do you really believe is your product?
I believe that they are going to be paying for this box, but they're getting an experience. I believe that this box that they're going to pay for is the gateway to what we're really providing them,
Okay.
which is this information, this experience of having to make cocktails with your friends, enjoy a time with each other. But it's just a means to an end.
Okay,
The alcohol is
got
the
it.
gateway to get there.
Okay, so you're gonna deliver this box.
Yeah.
Okay. So the box needs to be the point of focus. Like I said earlier, every product has to be well thought of, designed and packaged really well, right? And then plus some meaning behind it, what you think it is, what the customers think it is. You really have a good product in the sense that it comes with its own things inside that people will actually
Well,
taste.
let me
good.
clarify for you a little
Yeah.
bit. We aren't delivering an actual box to them.
Oh.
That's just what we're calling a package, for example.
Oh.
So we're showing up with all the ingredients in the boxes. So,
So-
the box has, for example, what goes into a Sazerac. It's absinthe, it's a rye whiskey, it's bitters, it's a rich simple syrup. Those are the things that go into it. So we show up with all those things.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a box that has those things. We just call the package the box.
So they will be not at my door, something like this.
No,
That's what you're saying.
I'm showing up
Oh,
with
I
the
see.
box and I'm walking you through this fun experience.
Okay, so that tells me I'm struggling. The customers will too. So you need to be clear how you communicate, because the moment you say alcohol, people engage differently. You know, so you have to be a little more clear to the point of branding, so that's crystal clear. So now let's talk about the business model. So the business model is revenue, $84 for the whiskey box. I like that. That was very clear. 84.21 cents.
Can you go back to the cost one?
What's the labor for preparing that box? In
Um,
hours, how many hours do you take to make a box?
Yeah. So an average event, the two parties that we had, one was a little over 2 hours and one was 2.5 hours. We've slotted that they could go about 3 hours. So that's the timing
Sure.
of it. And now Bob can get into the labor cost.
Yeah.
How much
so,
per hour?
So what we do when we factor in like the projection is paying a host, like paying like a bartender that we would hire. There are services that do that, but I mean, we could start with like paying a service, but eventually we want someone that comes on that's like a part of our company that at least does it part-time for us. And so we factored, say if we pay them $35, $40 an hour and it's 2.5 hours, you know, roughly about $100
So
per
100
party.
bucks
So that's factored into the,
That's factored
that's
into
for
the
party 100.
projections.
Yeah, in the projections, not here, but into our costs in, go to the projection slide. So like in total costs, this is the cost of $84 per party plus $100 for,
So I have to stop you right there. This is where you confuse me, because the product costs.
Yep.
If your product is this, what you're describing to me as a box, you need to cost that way, because that's what it is. If your product is a party, then it's a party, and then you're right, the cost of the party would be the material, which is the whiskey.
yeah, we included that. With the $84 is the cost of like the box, and then $100 is like to pay the host.
Okay.
And then there's also those other costs
Fine.
on there that are like
Good.
one time
Alright,
or.
got it. So then your costs of material, including the labor for the mixologist, there's a word like that,
Mhm.
would constitute your direct cost.
Yeah, yeah, that's for per party. Yeah.
Okay. Then you're going to have to do some calculation to get you the break-even point.
Yeah.
What's
well,
your
break
break-even
even?
point?
I mean, really, we only need to do a couple parties because we don't have a lot of fixed costs. I mean, it's just $20 a month to actually publish the website.
So do you have that
And then
number yet? Not yet.
the break-even point, that's just
The
yeah, that's
break-even- what's
factored
your
into like the
break-even
cost.
point? What's your break-even
Well,
point?
I mean,
How
really,
many parties?
By the time we sell 3 parties, we're already profiting $63. So between 2 and 3.
So your break-even point,
We don't have a
like
lot of
one party?
probably 2 parties. We didn't calculate exactly,
so you
but
see-
we don't have a lot of fixed costs, so that's why.
So the economics there would make me a little nervous. No one starts a business, they make the first product, and they broke even. Either there's some math that's not clear, but it makes it a little bit.
So what isn't clear then if you aren't seeing where it is, where 3 or 2 parties isn't breaking even, what aren't you believing?
So the way it works is you're going to have your material, $84. Then you're going to have your labor an hour. Okay. Then you have expenses. Okay. The expenses are salaries. The expenses are licensing your company. The expenses are rent if you have something like that. So all that has to be thought through. So to travel, there are several things. So let's say that comes to around 10,000, or let's make it lower, 5,000, because you're using your home, part of your home. So then you have to put that 5,000 and say if I sell one party, that's $300. Okay, I still have to go until I hit my 5,000.
Sure.
Right. So that's
sure.
But yeah.
Okay.
So initially I was going to say this is like a Tupperware party for alcohol, but that's not really an apt comparison, and here's why. You're selling the experience. You're not selling them anything. And I think that you're leaving potentially money on the table by not selling them something or giving them the opportunity to buy something. So for instance, so you're having 3 parties, let's say conservatively 9 hours of your time for a grand total of $63 in your pocket. That's probably not a wise, that's not how you're going to want to be living your life for very long, my guess is. It strikes me, I've had some friends, let's just call them friends, who had a similar sort of situation, except it was with wines instead of hard liquors. And it was a tasting party and an experience, but then the opportunity was to order wines afterwards and have them sent to your house. Now, obviously, this has much more regulatory implication with it. But it strikes me that your model, I mean, this seems like a fun idea, quite frankly, but it strikes me that your model also ought to include the opportunity for tasting parties of, let's say, bourbon, scotches, other sorts of things that are not things you can just pick up at your local Meijer or Binny's, but that you can pick up only in very specific distributors with whom you work, and allow them then to taste and experience the ones they like, order them, of which you then get a cut and the potential for residuals thereafter. Only the experience, I don't think, is going to make enough money for you to really want to continue with this.
So here's the problem with that. You can't directly sell the spirits. Legally, you can't. We've done a lot of research into the legality of this. And right now, everything we've talked about, there is no licenses we need. I've talked to both Michigan and Illinois licensing boards, and there's no licenses that we have to do for what we're doing. We can't sell the alcohol in the homes. It's just not possible legally. So that's kind of where that opportunity is missed out on. And you can't order, especially in Illinois, you can't order hard liquor to be delivered.
Can I ask, I'm curious, if you leave the stuff, if you leave your merchandise with them, like, so if I bring 3 bottles of whiskey or whatever for some small party, they keep it, or do you have to take it?
So
you're going to leave it with them, right?
So whatever's remaining in the bottle at the end of the night, we are going to leave with the host as a thank you parting gift. So that's one part of it.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as like managing space, I don't know. I mean, this to me seems almost like you could do it out of your garage. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
at least until you have some measure
Absolutely.
of scale. I actually really like the idea. I think it seemed really fun. I liked the video. I thought I could completely imagine having that type of experience, which I think is really compelling. I think I was thinking that your target market seems really undefined, the 30 to 65 of some income. You're like,
Well, yeah, just people that have expendable income. That's why we said middle to upper class. So people that are going, like, not people that are, of working class, like, don't have a lot of expendable income that they can just spend on a party like this.
Well,
but
I mean,
more established adults that have, jobs that have the money that they can spend.
I wonder if you might want to do a little more research, because it seems to me that bridal showers, the family events, retirement parties, business promotion,
we've thought
whatever.
through those kind of things, like having special, like bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, things along those lines, special things along that. We understand that it might not be our sole way of getting to people, but we've thought about those things in the sense of those are definitely possible routes to take, as well as our main kind of target market.
I mean, and I also wonder about your assumption that working class people won't want to throw a party. I don't know if, I mean, so I feel like in there you probably have ground to cover. Because people, when they want to have an event and they want to punctuate that with some kind of special experience.
So our assumptions don't come from nowhere. We did a decent amount of interviews that included both the upper class and the middle to lower class as well. And based on those interviews, in offering this kind of service to them, that demographic didn't really seem too interested in it across the board. So that's just what we found.
Well, there you go.
So great work with the video, making it come to life, and making us see hey, here's not just the concept, but here's what it actually looks like. A question around I had a question around geographic market focus, because you have a website wherever you're in another part of the country or another part of Illinois and you can't get there, but you kind of focus and restrict it around kind of what your market area is, because you showed that later on your projection and the number of parties you're looking to have. You compared it to kind of the food model, right? Tastefully Simple. There's some of those models are, the host gets something, right? There's an incentive for the host to do that. So typically the host gets something, and if people book a party from that, the host gets something in additional. So something to consider is you might want to have, some of the goodies, that have your logo, et cetera. So if you're at your party and your host gets somebody else to book another party from you, then you're able to give them something. So something to think about there. Another piece is around the suggestion that around can you actually sell something, and in the work that you've done and researched around, it's not possible to do it. So I wonder if there's also a possibility, because you can buy liquor and have it shipped. It just has to be shipped directly from the source. So I wonder if there's some sort of kind of co-marketing effort that you can do with a with a specific purveyor that actually makes a very distinct whiskey, for example, that's not available everywhere, and then you bring that to the party, and you can't sell it, but then they have to go buy it online, but they use your code, say, and so you give them the link.
Sure.
So then you get a
That'll
cut
make
of
a lot of
that.
sense.
So do that. So that'll be a way to do that, because I think there is something around being able to get
Yeah,
that.
and of course we wanted to be able to do that right away. We thought it would be completely stupid not to be there and try to sell it to them at all. So, we obviously didn't think through that could be a possible way to do it as well.
Yeah.
We saw the legal hard door and said, maybe can't do that. But there are workarounds.
Yeah, no, and then and the other piece around revenue is, so I like the projections around here. Here's the revenue, here's the cost, here's the profit. As you get further out and you're making $5,000 a month, how is that kind of sustainable, kind of for 4 people, from a monthly perspective, right? So does it end up becoming a side thing because you enjoy doing the parties? At what point do you actually start able to kind of collect, funds from that and pay yourself, right? So it's not just out of pocket. So it's, like the example, at the beginning, month 1 is tough, right? You're working 9 hours for $60, so that's kind of tough, But even if you scale that out, more parties, more efforts, you're paying folks. So at what point do you become scalable? So it seems like you need to add some additional elements to the model. Yep.
Okay, so I'll be really quick. You're running out of clock. But mine's just a compliment. I think it's a great idea, but I'll tell you a quick story. I actually met a Catholic priest at a party, and he was recommending wines. And I'm wondering if you've thought about the church segment. Because what happened after that is I went to the liquor store and said to the guy, can you give me the wines the pastors buy? And funny enough, the guy actually took me to a section and said all the pastors, when they come for the church stuff, they buy around here. So that shocked me because I thought it was a joke. But it's true, they actually shop in certain places. So, and I'm wondering if that's something you've done, looked at. And
Like, what exactly are you, like
church
the
wine.
church?
Yeah.
We haven't looked at church wine, no. But that is a good idea. Yeah, not something you'd think of at first. Yeah.
So, just out of curiosity, of the 4 of you, who's over 21? All right.
Not me.
You're all right.
Yeah.
You're all right. Fair enough.
That's why I didn't go.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, this is a lot of fun. I think that there's potentially something here. Getting back to Professor, not Mullen. Yeah, right, exactly, Nyhoff. Getting back to her question, I wonder whether the demographic the demographic area target is just maybe a little off. I mean, someone in their mid-30s to mid-60s, if this is billed as kind of an exploratory event, learn a cocktail or two, chances are pretty good they've done some exploring, as opposed to someone in their 20s who might want to learn a little bit more
Well,
about these
we thought about that. That was right away. We thought we were going to go after more college-age kids and like that, but college-age kids don't want to pay for this. Is kind of the thing. So that's why we moved towards. We started interviewing more people in their 40s and 50s, and then they had a lot of interest in this because they see it as an event they can do with their friends and kind of have fun that way and explore a little bit.
Can I throw? You could do super fun theme parties like
Absolutely.
got is Box Finder. We're running a little behind, but hopefully we'll be okay. Go ahead, Box Finder. Perfect.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Josh.
My name is Joe.
Haley.
My name is Ramon.
My name is Josh. And our company is Box Finder. So we spent a lot of time throughout the course of the semester being in the field, working with and alongside different CrossFit athletes and gym owners to really figure out what are the key pain points that they're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And because we only have 15 minutes to present, we're going to skip the cliche story time and just jump right into it. So BoxFinder is an app that allows traveling CrossFit athletes to book drop-in rates at boxes located in the cities they're traveling to. So quick lesson on CrossFit terminology for you guys. Drop-in is basically the act of visiting another gym to participate in a workout, and boxes are CrossFit gyms.
Let's go into our problem. Our initial hypothesis is traveling CrossFit athletes have a difficult time reserving drop-in rates at boxes in cities they are traveling to. This diagram right here illustrates the interviews we conducted, which we lead the class in interviews in.
So after conducting these interviews, we went again and basically validated our findings, what our hypothesis was, and we found that there are two key truths that were present. One was that CrossFit athletes have a difficult time locating gyms to visit while traveling, and the current solutions, such as Google Maps and the CrossFit affiliate map, are not reliable. The second key problem that they had was that CrossFit athletes have a difficult time booking drop-in rates while traveling and have not found a platform to do so efficiently. So there has to be a better way. Introducing our solution, BoxFinder.
So our main product is going to be a mobile application based on our customers' highly mobile lifestyles. So once the athlete creates an account and signs in, they'll be faced with the home screen, which is the search screen. They can search for the location that they're traveling to, and then it will populate the feed with the boxes in that location, where they can then see the drop-in rate for each box, and they can favorite that gym either for later or just to view in the favorites tab. Once they click on a box to see more information, they will be able to see the rating of that box that other users has given it. They will also see the contact information if they want to contact that box directly, and a brief description to see like what that box is like. Once they're ready to drop in, they'll be presented with a pop-up where they can choose the month and day that they'd like to drop into, and then the available times for that day. Then once they want to go to pay, they can pay with a linked card or their PayPal account. Under the account tab, they can edit their personal information, enable and disable certain notifications, and they're able to add or delete certain payment methods. And then on the box side of the experience, once they're verified with us, they'll be able to sign in and then view all of the drop-ins that are scheduled for whatever month and day that they choose. Then they're also able to edit their information that other athletes will see on the box information screen, and they can edit class times.
So you've seen our product. Let's talk a little bit about the CrossFit industry. The CrossFit industry is comprised of more than 15,000 boxes, spanning across 162 different countries with more than 4 million athletes, making it the largest fitness chain in the world, and also one of the fastest growing corporate chains, joining a list of impressive companies such as Subway and McDonald's.
Target customers. Our target customers are men and women aged 23 to 45. They're professional workers that travel about 3 times a month, participate in CrossFit, and when they visit a gym, they drop in.
So a little bit about our go-to-market strategy. The first phase, which is currently operating, is our email template. So a low-fidelity prototype to begin to kind of test and gain traction with our users. It's a little bit different from the actual app that will come out later. But what we do is it's different in the fact that we recommend gyms to people. So we have a list of contacts who will, at the beginning of the month, send us the dates and the locations that they'll be traveling to during that month. And then our team will go back and put together recommendations for them by hand and send it over in a nice email template. And then they can go and actually drop in at those different gyms based on our different recommendations. So we currently have 12 subscribers on our mailing list, 6 who have joined within the last week. And it basically helps us to determine, is their idea spreading? Without writing a single line of code, we can kind of determine through our referrals if we're getting more people on our mailing list, and just kind of determine it that way without having to go and do upfront investment and whatnot. We can kind of see the growth that's occurring there. So the second part of our go-to-market strategy is to gather feedback from 100 consumers within our target market on our wireframe. So we have a prototype that Joe just showed, and we're going to go to 100 people within that target market and get feedback, see what key features we should put in our beta version, which can be added later, and just make the whole development process much more lean and efficient.
So the next step is to actually develop the beta. So we're going to be taking the feedback that we got from the email system and the wireframe to then go ahead and build this application in the Flutter framework, which will dramatically increase or dramatically speed up the development process, and it will allow us to launch it on both the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. And during this process, we'll also be migrating all of our users on our email system to our application, so they already have an account set up with us.
Let's talk a little bit about our milestone map. So in June, we want to start implementing our email list, and we want to have 25 subscribers on this email list by then. We also want to be developing connections and growing these connections and adding boxes to our platform. By July, we hope to start testing our wireframe. We want 100 consumers from our target market testing it. We also want 100 subscribers by this time on our email list. By August, we hope to launch our beta and then convert the members from the email list over to the app. Then by January 2020, we hope to launch additional features. So let's talk a little bit about our marketing strategy. We hope to use social media as our primary way of marketing. I have a little bit of experience selling through Facebook and using that way of marketing. Last year, I generated $85,000 gross revenue through my business, Rosebud Bloom Boutique. This year, projecting $120,000. And so we're already thinking of some ways to get BoxFinder to generate that same source of revenue. So let's move on to CrossFit influencers. So Cole has over 200,000 followers, as you can see. Josh has a connection through his company, Bullet, and so they have a great connection, and we're hoping to use influencers like him to influence and encourage his following to check out our app. Future methods of marketing that we hope to use is blog features, Google Ads, and using our connection with boxes, so the CrossFit gyms, to kind of influence and encourage their members to convert over to an app system. Also, since we've been testing our beta in our email system, we've gathered some reviews. So this is a member, Kristen, who used our email template. She was traveling to Atlanta. She said, BoxFinder helped me locate a gym that was perfect for me to visit while traveling to Atlanta. Gave me everything I needed to book a drop-in. So she was a very happy customer. She told us later on that she was excited to use our app. And so these are some just happy customers that we've talked to and have already kind of tested out our idea and validated it.
Yeah, so let's talk about some key partners that can really help us accelerate the growth and scale quickly. The first one is boxes, such as example, Wall Street CrossFit. Really, since the app is a two-sided platform, being both the B2C side and the B2B side, we want to ensure that our boxes are happy and maintain good relationships with them. Another key partner would be the Reebok CrossFit Games. This is an event that's held once a year, tagging the line of the fittest on earth. It's a competition where all CrossFit athletes from around the world come together. It's the largest gathering of CrossFit athletes at one time. So it'll be really good to help us scale our marketing efforts through that channel. Another key partner would be Wodify. This is more down the line in the future. Wodify is a company that allows box owners to upload their workouts for each day of the week into their platform, and it basically allows their users to see what they'll be doing throughout the week and in terms of their workouts. So it'll allow our users as well to see what workouts they'll be doing as they're dropping in at these different boxes. Bullet Mobility is the company I founded. We sell a product that allows for myofascial release in athletes, specifically in CrossFit, and we'll be able to kind of figure out how we can best monetize our ad platform and how we can be able to generate revenue through advertising through our app. Rogue Fitness will be another one further down the road. It's the largest CrossFit retailer. They do all the equipment for the CrossFit Games, including apparel and everything from the barbells. We have barbells down in the gym. They're a really good connection there. So to have them advertise on our platform will be a big plus. CrossFit Influence as well, as Haley said. The main way that CrossFit people create income is through advertising and becoming influencers. So you can see in their bios, they have tags to most of the companies that sponsor them, and this allows them to train without having to work a job and compete on a broader stage, and works out well because they can earn such a large following.
Let's talk about our competitors.
we have High Five and Box Jump. These two apps have been said to not been updated frequently and made it hard for the users to use.
So a little bit about our revenue model. It's two-sided. The first is the transaction fee. So we charge a booking fee of 80 cents each time a person drops in at a gym. And the second being advertising. So it's just another platform for companies to market to a more highly targeted, segmented kind of a niche market of CrossFit athletes. A little more efficient method of marketing than just kind of some of the other general advertisements out there. A little bit about our financials. This is our 12-month sales outlook. We're projected to make right around $42,000 in our first 12 months of sales. And the September and October, we're creating like $150 in revenue and $250 in revenue the next month, so pretty small numbers. But September will be the time that we launch our beta app and start producing revenue that way. Projections year 1 to 5, as I said, $42,000 for the first year, $240 for the second year, and continue to grow at that pace, seeing the type of hockey stick growth as we continue to add more and more users to our platform. The year 5, $1.3 million, that revenue is estimated at 1% of the overall CrossFit market. So if we can capture 1% of everyone that participate in CrossFit, that's what we will be making per year. So you've heard a little bit about our product. You've heard a little bit about our about the CrossFit market. And this is why we're the team to get it done. I'll be taking the role of CEO. I have extensive experience working in the CrossFit industry and with startups. I have a company called Bullet Mobility, in which we've worked with over 100 CrossFit athletes and gym owners to develop the product from its ideation phase and bringing it to market. We've been producing revenue, and we'll continue to work forward that this summer and be able to kind of strengthen our connections between BoxFinder and the existing companies or the existing boxes that I've already connected with through Bullet.
So my name is Haley. I'll be taking the role of head of marketing and head of operations. I'm a CEO and founder of a boutique called Rosebud Bloom, and I also do consulting through my boutique. So I have quite an experience of doing marketing and operations currently. Like I mentioned, I made $85K gross last year and projected $120 this year. So I'm really hoping to bring those skills that I've learned through my boutique, bringing it into BoxFinder and implementing those things and seeing great growth.
So I will be head of product and head of engineering. I'm a sophomore at Trinity Christian College, and I'm pursuing a degree in computer science and a minor in entrepreneurship with a large interest in app development.
Again, I'm Joshua Shannon. I'm a junior at Trinity. I play on the basketball team. I got a major in computing, and I'm the director of client relations.
My name's Ramon Flores. I'm a sophomore here at Trinity Christian College, and I'm majoring in computer science, and I'll be taking on the head of product design.
We also have a key additional future hires that we look to implement into the team, mostly consisting of interns, 2 in web design to help us complete our beta app and go to market as we continue to add additional features throughout that time. And another future hire is our box outreach intern and marketing intern, both to help us kind of sustain and develop more connections with other boxes that we can grow on our platform. We also have 2 key advisors, John Whitekin, who's the chair of business, will be helping us, advising us through some of the business efforts, and Sean Coney, who is someone who is also connected with me through my company, Bullet Mobility. He owns a gym, Wall Street CrossFit, downtown on Wall Street, and he'll be a great resource as well as we look to kind of grow our following and scale that way as well. So, thank you.
Yeah, so great presentation, great overview. Just a couple of questions. So I got the year 5 projections around kind of 1%, the kind of global kind of CrossFit market, but I missed the part around, maybe you covered it, around how big the problem is you're trying to solve around folks that don't go to a home gym. So if I'm into CrossFit and I always go to my regular gym, then I'm not necessarily going to use your app. I just have a relationship with that box, right?
Sure.
So how big is that market of folks that need to find a place because they're traveling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think initially it was a little bit bigger than I thought. I mean, I kind of thought it was a few drop-ins every now and then. We did some research and talked to a few gyms. For example, one box located in Denver, they have, I think it was on average, 80 drop-ins a week that produce, and they've made up to, I think it was $2,000 per week just from drop-ins alone. So depending on where it is, I mean, you are going to have some locations where it's really not going to be as big of a service because it's just not frequently visited. But you have a lot of companies out there and boxes who receive a lot of their revenue from drop-ins. So the people that we've talked to, I mean, we interviewed over 50 people, and from them, they were people that traveled frequently for work, right around 3 to 4 times a month, some as much. They were dropping in as much as 6 times a month. So it's a little bigger than we thought initially, and I don't know the overall number, though, as to how many people drop in per month.
No, so that's helpful. And then did you do some like further narrowing down? So the folks that are traveling and dropping in, so if I'm traveling for work, but I normally travel to 3 cities, and it's, the same place, I might know which box to go to so I know where to go in. I don't necessarily need to use the app. So there's that question is one. And the other one is like, after I get to my gym, how do you prevent the issue that you have with other kind of matchmaker apps where, after I find the first one, then I'm no longer going to use your app because I already know which box to go to.
Right. So we have a couple of systems in place. One is our reward system. So to answer your second question, the reward system allows people who continue to gain points as they drop into more gyms, and then they can redeem those points through different advertisements that we have. So it would be like Rogue, for example. If you drop in at 10 gyms in a 2-month span, then you get $10 off a Rogue t-shirt or whatever it may be. So kind of incentivizing them through that way. And then we've been talking about creating some other creative solutions for advertising where you earn reward points for watching different ads, and then we can use more kind of highly targeted ads for the companies such as Rogue and other companies that market on our platform. So that's kind of the biggest. And then in terms of kind of finding the one box, one person that we did, he lives in Naperville, and when he was giving us his list earlier this week, he said, I'm going down to Florida, to Naples. If you can give me your recommendation. I already have one gym there, but I'd love to see what else is out there. Let me know. So he hasn't gone there yet, and I haven't heard from him yet, but we sent him our recommendations, and we'll look to follow up with him and see how he approaches that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so my question is about the costs. So I saw the revenue. Show me the costs.
Yeah, so these are projections year 1 to 5. A couple of the key costs, one will be marketing, but we are really looking to take kind of a lean approach when it comes to our costs. She doesn't do any paid marketing, so she generated $12,000 in the last 30 days without one paid ad through Facebook. So we think that there are some creative solutions that we can take towards how we're going to market our product, what channels we're going to do it through. And I think for us, marketing will be the biggest cost eventually. Some other startup costs will include co-working space, for example, which isn't much of an issue right now because of our connection with 1871, along with hiring just the interns to help us continue to develop our beta product. But the $3,000 would be great to kind of cover those upfront initial costs that we'll take when forming the legal entity and going through some of the early stages of startup development.
So what do you think you break even?
So it's hard to tell, and I didn't want to. But with the projections, I mean, I don't know specifically enough, and I don't feel comfortable making the break-even point as this is when it's going to be, because there's a lot of different factors that come in and a lot of scale that we'll be incurring with the development of the product and costs we might incur. So if I'm assuming it'll be right around year 2 or Q1 year 2 is my assumption, but I can't really specify it down or give you a specific dollar amount.
Okay. So for the costs, even though Haley is giving the touch, you still need to think about how you're paying Haley. She's not going to be paid right away, but at some point, Haley's going to want to be paid, probably per hour, I estimate, or something like that. Then that becomes part of your costs. So it starts to be your marketing costs somehow, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So what's your take per visit, per drop-in?
80 cents per the transaction fee
And
for booking.
What's the typical cost for a visiting drop-in?
It really varies. It's usually between anywhere from $10 to $30 within that range.
And how did you pick 80 cents?
80 cents was kind of the one where we just ran different projections. $1 seemed a lot. 50 cents, it wasn't really making sense financially. We kind of landed on 80 cents. So nothing really scientific behind it, but it's kind of the happy medium between what we feel comfortable charging.
It's a curious idea. I'm going to show my phone here. The My Own Box app, different kind of box, of course. I have a folder I keep that is marked business ideas, and what's the first one at the top of that list?
CrossFit reciprocity.
Yeah, so it's an interesting idea that, it's a reciprocity idea for CrossFit gyms, which this seems to get at.
Sure.
The question, you kind of breeze through it fast in terms of your competitive.
By design, yep.
Yeah, by design, right. But going through it fast doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right?
Right,
So
yep.
So talk with us a little bit more about what other players have beat you into this space, and why it is you think that ultimately you can beat them out of the space.
Yeah, so High Five is one of the main ones. High Five and Box Jump are really the two players that we found throughout our study that that are competitors in this space. So in terms of High Five, it was developed by people similar to us, came out of a school, and they went through Nike's accelerator program, and they haven't really made any updates from what we saw in the past 2 years. So it's not available on Google devices, which I have, and they were looking through the iPhone, and it really hasn't been updated in the past 2 years. We looked through some of the reviews. They've noticed a lot of glitches in the software and a lot of problems that they were continually incurring. So the amount of downloads has significantly dropped as time has gone on, and the app still works, but they're not really doing any further development or tweaking it. Box Jump is the other one. They were actually based out of 1871, and their main process is a kiosk system. So they allow people to come in and just kind of like scan and to make their payments through there. CrossFit gyms also sell a lot of T-shirts and like granola bars, protein bars, sports drinks, that kind of stuff. And the kiosk system that Box Jump provides is a way of payment for that, and it also helps members of the gym to pay their subscription fee through the kiosk as well. So that's their main service, with the drop-in feature being secondary. So they haven't put as much time and effort into marketing, which is why I think we're kind of experiencing, in their case, not much growth for the service.
I don't have a lot to say because I don't really understand this. I didn't understand. I kind of get the general pinch. Like someone wants to travel, they want to go to a gym. That makes sense to me. The rest of it didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand how you were generating your numbers. I understand wanting to have a critical mass online so that you can sell advertising. That we all get that. That's really effective. When I look at the numbers, I don't understand the numbers and the growth rates. And what I don't understand most specifically, the growth rates I think are, they're not troubling. 4.6, 6.2, 5.3, 4 to 5, you're at 1.2, 100+% jump. That's a big jump. To understand those, it would make sense to say at this point we need to have X number of users, X number of touch. Like really making sense of a gross revenue estimate that you would do just like a business would do, right? Mm-hmm. Some of my revenue is going to come from advertising, some portion of it. Some portion of it's going to come from those 80-cent dings,
Sure.
whatever that
Right.
is. And I don't know if you have that somewhere else, but that may be something you want to disclose.
Mm-hmm. I assumed that you were going to ask that, so I wrote them down before. The year 2 was, so the way that we calculated it was per the amount of users and then what their kind of annual revenue per user would be. So if we have one person drop in 3 times a month, which was the average of all the people that we had talked to, that would produce on average $28.80 from revenue from one user for the year. We rounded it up to $30 for the sake of the projections. And then, so year 2 would be based on 8,000 users, 13,000, 20,000, and then 45,000, which is 1% of the overall CrossFit market. So those are kind of where we hit the numbers from. We weren't too specific just because these are projections, and projections are hard to kind of grasp. So
but what's the percentage of CrossFitters that are travelers?
So from the people that we've talked to, sometimes they drop in, 4 times a month. Sometimes they're dropping in once every couple months, and sometimes they don't drop in at all. So again, it's a very niche market, and we're trying to attack them. But overall,
what you're talking about, so that year 5 number is based on 1% of the total numbers of CrossFitters, right?
Sure, right.
Now, I guess my question would be, what's the percentage of CrossFitters who are actually traveling? Because first of all, that's your initial market, right?
Right,
because
exactly.
The idea,
Yep.
if I don't travel and I go to my local CrossFit gym box, I don't need you.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
It's only if I travel.
Right.
So whatever the 1% of the total number of CrossFit users is pretty much meaningless. The number
Sure.
you've got to focus on is how many are actually traveling, and how much are they traveling, and how much of that market share can I get?
Right. And so we've looked for this number countless times, and it just isn't very public. There's not a way to kind of quantify it to say this is how many people travel on average this time. So our kind of thought behind the projections was this is just a benchmark that kind of gives you an idea to the overall CrossFit market.
And it was based more on our interviews. So we had over 50 interviews, and based on our interviews, we saw, majority of those interviewees saying that they did travel, at least if it's one time a month. So that's kind of where we pulled that from. There wasn't a lot of data out there that says this amount of people a month travel.
But,
So we kind of had to base it off of our interviews.
I'm guessing your interviews are not scientifically randomized.
No, but we did talk to box owners, gym owners, and they had a pretty good view of who was coming in and who was not a member and just dropping in. So that also helped. But
How many gym owners?
how many gym?
I don't remember the exact number.
10, 20, 100?
It was more than 10.
Okay.
Mhm.
Less than 20.
I'd say closer to 20. Maybe a little bit more than 20.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so the question I have is around the platform, right? The app that's going to be a big differentiator. So you've articulated from a business perspective and kind of knowledge around kind of CrossFit and past startup experience, kind of some business projections and some of the expertise that you bring in, and then you've done a great job. Haley, you were talking about kind of marketing experience, what you bring to the table from that. But tell me a little bit around the technology side, right? So how do you mitigate that risk, that concern? So you've had some competitors that you can see that they haven't progressed, their applications are buggy, et cetera. What experience do you have, or what experience do you need to tap into to make sure that doesn't happen with your platform?
Well, we're going to be using the Flutter platform. So we're going to be using just one code base to develop for both platforms. And so we're going to need another developer that's a lot more experienced in Flutter to bring in to actually program this alongside me. I know the basics of Flutter as a framework, but we're definitely going to need someone else to come in and kind of assist with that sort of development for the app with that. But as far as what each High Five and Box Jump, what they're using for their sort of code base, I'm not sure. They're probably using more native code along the lines of Java or Kotlin for Android and Swift for iOS. But yeah, we're planning on using Flutter, which is a new thing supported by Google, and we're hoping that will set us apart in terms of design, in terms of functionality, and things like that. But
And have you explored getting a UI UX designer around the user experience, around how it flows, because it's more than just the code and how the app works?
Yep. So we're using Adobe XD to prototype that, and that's what we're going to be showing to people to get some feedback from our actual prototype. What I showed you was actually from a prototype that me, Ramon, and Josh actually created in Adobe XD. So it's functioning. You can click through each of the things and such. But yeah.
Okay, thanks.
The only other thing, I guess, when I think about, you skipped the story. You said, I want to skip the cliched story. And I want to disabuse you of one notion. If I don't feel it, I don't understand the CrossFit gym versus a regular gym. I've traveled an absolute ton. I used to travel a ton for work. You can go to gyms. It's not that hard to find a gym. So it's clear that there's something specific about the CrossFit gym, right? In that moment, it needs to stick more. When you showed the picture was helpful for me. The graphic, how you'd go through the app, I actually found that really useful because that was my first glimpse into what a CrossFit gym might look like and what makes that kind of a different experience than just going to a gym, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So do they typically only permit certain number of people in a CrossFit gym at any one time?
From the gym side, it's kind of based on the class size, but they oftentimes have, I think in most cases, they're willing to take in drop-ins. It's just the amount of users, basically in their case, users per month that they have per class, because they don't want, to have 40 people in a class every single day. So the drop-ins are kind of seen as an addition, as additional revenue, which is really the value that we provide to boxes, and the fact that we're increasing their drop-in rates, giving them kind of a more centralized platform, and increase their revenue, therefore, through the drop-in rates.
And that value proposition from those business owners, I think, is meaningful and worth sharing. And then the only other comment that I had, and I just blanked on it. I've been thinking about this the whole time everybody's been talking. Hold on, you come up with a question. I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to come back to it.
I think there was just less than a minute.
30 seconds. Okay, among the 5 of you, how many regularly do CrossFit?
None. And we started selling through the product, through Bullet. This is where I really started. So I developed the product because I was a part of baseball, and baseball we use it for certain areas, and the overlap between CrossFit was huge. So I started becoming connected to the CrossFit community, and after talking with over 100 CrossFit owners, having our product tested in more than 30 boxes, this became a huge opportunity where they were, coming back to us and saying, this is what we're looking for, and these are, kind of where there's the biggest pain point in the market. So for us, this was an opportunity to continue to develop, and the fact that we can kind of interconnect my already pre-established connections with Bullet and to kind of merge the two and kind of continue that way. So.
Thank you.
We'll give the judges a few minutes. Music Connect can come on up here and get set up. Those kids really give you a headache. Is your mic on? It is. Affirmative. I got fruits left.
Maybe water.
All right, guys, so we got our next company coming up. Mic's on?
Yes.
Mic's on.
Affirmative.
All right, guys, so Music Connect's up next.
First of all, thank you everyone for staying here, sticking around. Thank you, judges. I know this has been a long process, but we appreciate you guys doing this. And so we are Music Connect. We are an application that allows musicians to connect to venues, venues to performers and musicians, and allows agents to manage their clients.
So first, we're wondering, who are we? I'm Mike Melody. I'm a biblical studies major. That was not something I planned on doing entering college. It was just a conviction and a calling that changed my path. I'm also a minor in business, and I started off at Trinity as a major of finance. Things changed, but I really still have this business skill set that I want to engage and I'm passionate about. So that's sort of who I am. I also work at Chick-fil-A. I serve at church in worship and tech, and I have a band here. You can see at Trollstock, this is us playing, Mikey and the Boys. At church, I play guitar and I lead worship vocally, and then additionally I work in tech as a producer, doing sound management, live stream production, and other technological things.
I'm Zach Gill. I am a junior marketing major with an entrepreneurial management minor, and currently I run a studio in my basement, and I produce music for my own stuff and for other people. And in my studio, I produce music, engineer, mix, and master. And I recently released an EP, so if you want, go check that out. Appreciate that.
I am Tyler Fredrickson. I am a major in computer science with a minor in mathematics. Yeah, we're an Opus t-shirt right here. I'm a software developer, a web designer, but also the technology support specialist at a local school organization, Southwest Chicago Christian Schools. I have a passion for developing softwares that people enjoy using. I like focusing on those nitty-gritty details that will maximize the use of the product. Everything I can do so that they will come to this and fully understand this is all I need for the purpose that I'm trying to fulfill.
I'm Mateo. I'm a musician as well as a worship coordinator for my church, Ponte Vida Church, which is in Chicago. I play a bunch of different string instruments. I've played in the theater event, The Old Man and the Old Moon, the play. If you went and saw, I also played in the 1X here. I also play at my church as well as different churches in Chicago as well. And I'm also a sophomore, computer science major, and a business minor.
So what's the problem? Musicians can't find gigs, and music, unfortunately, can no longer be a full-time job. And this is something we want to start providing. In addition, venues finding musicians without an agent. And one of the big callings for this individually was my home church. We oftentimes have a tough time finding, let's say, a drummer for this Sunday. So what our app will allow you to do is you'd be an application process so we could find a drummer. And additionally, agents are in an archaic market that needs innovation. It's a very old market, a lot of calls, a lot of just looking through websites and newspapers and things like this. This is a problem that we want to solve.
So our app was this idea that stemmed from pitches in the beginning of the semester. In the beginning of the semester, every person in the class pitched 2 or 3 times with different ideas, and some had traction, some others people liked, and Mateo pitched this app to us. It was a little different then. Mateo, could you just describe what it was to begin?
Yeah, so as a worship coordinator and as a musician in general, I noticed there's not a good way of communicating or finding places to play and promoting yourself out there. Especially when it comes to churches themselves, there's always smaller churches who are always seeking instrumentalists such as drummers, guitarists, or pianists to play at their church. But the only good way of communicating it would be through people you know or other churches that you visited, as well as regular musicians as well have a hard time of promoting themselves and gaining a strong audience wherever they go.
Yeah, so that was the initial idea, and from that stemmed our app. And through interviews throughout the semester, through interviews at places like Players Guitars, right in Worth, where there's a bunch of old rock stars who actually are still making their living playing music at live venues, at places like Midlothian Music, who mainly focus with students of music who are learning lessons. We validated and invalidated ideas such as, do we want tutors on our app and like a way for teachers to find students? But a lot of these ideas kind of sifted through, and we came to this app idea that would connect musicians to venues, venues to musicians, and allow agents to use the platform in order to find venues for their musicians. It's essentially an agent app for agents. Like Zach was saying, it's an archaic industry. Things are done the way they've been done always. Agents, a lot of them own a large share of the market, and they're kind of like dinosaurs. They're unmoving. But our app provides a new way for the agents to not be cut out of the picture, but allows them to use this app as a platform for them to get venues for their agents. Yeah.
So we are not the first group to come up with this idea. This has been done before. There are places or websites such as Gigmore, Sonic Buds, and Yvette who have done this, but specifically, they do not incorporate agents. They care to promote individual musicians who are not able to promote themselves as much as they should. What makes this difference is the agent side, as well as we do not do a monthly service fee as these do. We are doing it transaction-based, where each gig is done. We take a small portion of the fee that is given from the venue to the musician and take it for ourselves. Oh, and the risks that come with this is relationship with agents, because we want agents to use this platform as a tool to make it easier for them to promote their own musicians, as well as gain musicians that they want to represent on this. And another risk is the transactions behind our back. Musicians are able to go to venues themselves and just cut us out of the middle of it. But what we want to do is incorporate a way for musicians to be able to use our app and venues to see these musicians. And once this gig is done, put a rating system where they're able to rate the musician as well as the venue. And if the musician continues to use this app, there's ratings that will go down on this musician. And venues will be able to see that these musicians are very good at what they do, and they will be able to better promote themselves. We are also thinking of creating a reward system in our app as well.
So when you think about music and live music, it seems like it could potentially be a small market. However, this actually really isn't the case. So you can see here there's live music sponsorship and live music ticket sales. And we can see in 2021, it's only increasing to $9.55 billion involved in the whole industry. So this is an industry that's growing, and this is one that we want to get involved in.
So we have a couple plans with, of course, what would we want to do with your money. First and foremost, we would probably want to go into app and potentially web development. It could cost, a good chunk of money to be able to do a server and web hosting, whether we want to do that in our own dorm room or in some sort of office space, or if we wanted to do it just cloud-based, if we wanted to host it ourselves or not. So we need funding for whichever option we choose with that. We'd also need to do database backend for if we want to do an app and both the website. Even if it's just the app, we would still need a database to connect to this just to really bring this to fruition. And web development, if we decide to go with that side, whether we want to do it ourselves or use a third party like Wix, it would still cost an additional couple pennies.
As far as marketing goes and getting ourselves out there, making ourselves known, we're going to start with social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. These are all platforms that we could specifically target niche markets and musicians and venues, people whose search categories are within those within that range, and target them with ads of our app, saying what we do, and catching them with just catching their attention with what we do. YouTube niche ads as well for people who are watching videos at live venues, trying to see a video of a venue, musicians who are doing that, or watching videos of small musicians. We'll be able to target those that audience and put videos out prior to their YouTube videos for them to see our app and what we're all about. Then in addition, Google, similar, for people's search categories, they can go ahead and if they search something related to our app, ours will pop up first as an ad as something they could be interested in. Small music shops, this goes back to, I was talking about Players Guitar in Worth and Midlothian Music in Orland. Those are places that a lot of local musicians go, and we're starting local. We're starting in the Chicago area, specifically the south side of Chicago. So places like that are places we already have relationships with, we've met the owners of, and places that are on board with this app idea and want musicians to have more opportunities to play live, to make money, and to make a more sustainable living. And then in addition, there's Reddit forums, music forums, where specific ideas like this are talked about. Specific needs are talked about from musicians, and we are going to use that to put ourselves out there so that these people who are looking at these specific things know that we exist and we're a thing.
This is a rough idea of kind of what our financials are looking like, and this would mainly be for the first year. And when we talk about it, our first year is mainly going to be Chicagoland area, Midwest area. So as Tyler was talking about, with all the things that we want to develop with the application, it's going to go out to about $2,000. Marketing and advertising, we want to put a lot into this. And for this first year, we're kind of looking to just stick with us. We're all kind of on board with this idea. We all love this idea, and this is kind of our idea just as of now. In regards to revenue, so we're averaging about 30 users a month. So these users would use it about one time a month, and we're averaging, this fee is going to change, this percentage, but it would be a 3% fee, $200 a gig. So that's about the amount that we totaled it to be. And that's the same with venues. That would also be charged to the musician. So that's kind of, and then with the agent side, so there's going to be, we did it as 5 agents that are using our app, and they're managing 5 separate musicians at a 3% fee. This is all going to change. So how this all works is that there's going to be, each agent has a list of musicians. Each musician, it's going to have a percentage fee taken out, and it's going to be given to the agent. The agent is there on out, in charge of paying their musicians. It's not going to go through us, but the money towards the agent goes through us. And then we also have venue promotion. So this would include having on our app certain venues being at the top of the list. So venues can pay us, and we'll promote them within our app, and also ad revenue, because we are going to be hosting ads on our app. So why us? We have qualification. We love music. We have 3 musicians here that we are very passionate about music and allowing musicians to have an opportunity like this. We have a great group dynamic. We've been working on this all semester, and we've all actually become pretty good friends. This is something we love to do. And not to brag, but we've already won the Pizza with a Pitch contest, in which there were 8 groups, and we pitched this app, and we actually received a small sum of money to our app.
So I just wanted to give you guys a little preview of what we already have. So this was also prototyped in Adobe XD. This would be the musician side, which right now we have 3 basic user types. So I'm going to show you 2 of them. This is the musician side, where on one page you'd be able to see just a map of local venue opportunities, and you can click on each of the little dots and it would give you more information. Now, the way we counteract the musician going around us and just taking this and contacting them directly is through the ratings and reviews. We want them to get the 5-star ratings, so when the venue pays them and say, oh, they did phenomenal, I'm going to give them this rating, I'm going to give them this review, and it'll keep people in the system because they want, basically, it's free advertisement for the musician or the band. And then this would be like the featured venues list, so that would be like the homepage you can go on. You would see these venues that are paying us to be at the top of the list. So for this one, Zachary's Gill is a real place, but this is a fake advertisement for them. I just put them at the top of the list saying they paid us the $25 that month or however much we're going to charge, and they get put at the top of the list. So we're advertising them up at the top. And then this is a rough idea of what the venue side would look like. They'll just put information in their post. So they create a post about this available gig. They'll put the venue, because a venue owner can own more than one venue. So we're going to have them pre-saved in when they sign up. They can put all their venues in, so they don't have to put the information in every single time. So of the venue, when it is, what type of music is, do they want a solo artist, a duo, a band, how many people, what instruments they want, and about how much they'll pay. This page would be the musician applicant. So when a musician finds this available gig, they'll apply to it. And then that page will show all the musicians that applied to a certain gig, and they can click on the profile, or they can go directly message them, whichever route they decide to take. They can find more about this musician or band and go from there. We have made the connection at that point.
So this is a really exciting idea, and here's just some more ideas that we want to incorporate going forward. An additional user story for fans to use the app, fans of bands or fans of venues to use the app so that they can go and see the bands and know where they're playing, when they're playing. Incorporating a photography and videography team onto our team so that we can provide additional marketing resources for bands and venues. Expanding outside the southwest side of Chicago, outside of the Midwest, and into the rest of the country. Become agents to these unrepresented talents, which is something we're beginning with as we begin the app. Then partner with Guitar Center, local shops, etc., which I talked about a little bit, in order to get our name out there, and continue to develop our social media plan and our overall presence and the knowledge of our product to people. Any questions?
So, thank you. I like the idea of music, and I like the idea of just providing a marketplace. So the first question is more about the product. So will I also see the musician sing a little bit? If I want to hire a guy.
Oh, on the app?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we
there's
have a
a
fully
small
functioning
clip.
prototype where we could show you that, but I'll just explain it instead because of time. So on the musician's profile, a venue or an agent can click onto the musician and see video of them performing in the past.
Okay. Right. And then the other genre, what type of genre?
Oh, all types of genre. So we're mainly focusing on bands and like single performers. So if they want to play country or rock, even punk music, they could do all of that.
Okay.
We're not as much into DJs, but that's something we could plan on
Oh, the
incorporating
other
in the
thing.
future.
What if I'm a musician, but I'm also a DJ, and if you don't like what I'm singing, I can turn to comedy. What do you do with me? Can I also list stuff?
So, are you saying as a live, in a live
Yeah,
situation
so I'm playing
where?
the guitar and doesn't seem to be catching well, but I'm a comedian, you know.
So that would be a situation that the
You don't-
venue owner and the musician can
so it's
figure
up to
out.
you. Okay.
But like all we do is connect the two.
Okay, so for you, it's music.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so now let's talk about your numbers. Go back to your, for the this particular slide. I didn't understand the 2160. I was trying to see if it's coming from 30 users times 200, that's 6,000.
And then it's times this percentage, and then it's monthly. So we did about, 30 users a month, essentially.
Like once per month?
Yeah, well, so like each of these 30 users, we're just judging that they use it once a month.
They'll do 1 gig per month.
Yeah, that's what we're just averaging it out to, yeah.
And the gig will be $200.
Yeah, that's what we're
So
averaging
that's
out to.
6,000. 6,000. It's
Yeah, the
1
2160
year.
is a full year.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because this is the first year.
Okay. All
And
right.
I'm just going to add to that as well. These are projections based on, like, in the first 3 months, we have no revenue because these are events that you have to plan ahead of time. And you get paid on the spot. But with our app, we're just going to hold the money in between the two parties, between the venue and the musician. And when the event actually happens and both parties agree for the money to transfer, which we already have, they're going to take it. But the first 3 months, we're at a loss.
So which month do you break even?
Month 4.
So
We didn't break it down to months, but I'm just letting you know this as information that might add to your.
All right. So you want
evaluation.
to do a clear analysis for the person, the judge, that they can see for themselves, right?
Mhm.
So the calculations, the way they would lay out, so that.
Yeah,
it
I
kind of
agree. That was
fits
our
in.
oversight.
Because if your costs are 3,000 and you're going to make 2,000 a year, you won't break even in the first year. It won't be 4th month. But now you have other revenues. I see you have 4,000. If I add all this, you are kind of around 7,000. Oh, you have 6.4 per year. Okay, so perhaps, yeah. Okay, with that.
Yeah, so I have a clarification too that I'm seeking to here on this revenue side. So the musicians are using your platform. So then the venues, is that like equate to the musicians? So are you like for one booking from one musician to venue, are you charging both of them for that same transaction, or is that a separate transaction?
It's actually we're charging the musician specifically, and there's like a venue fee to use the app, but we're charging the musicians because if you're a venue, think about it like being the user of a venue. You're a venue. Why would you go with us to get this gig when you could just go and talk to an agent who is going to take the fee away from his musician? You're not paying any more or less. With this suggestion, we would the venues would be paying more. And it wouldn't really make sense for them to use. For musicians, on the other hand, they're seeking opportunities to get their name out there.
But you have the venue listed here. So like walk me through the scenario then when the venue is actually paying you this per gig.
So, yeah. So I guess this could potentially average out to 60 users because it's technically musicians too, on that venue. Because when we made this, we were kind of developing it, and we found out that we're charging the musicians. So, does that kind of help at all?
Right.
How I interpreted it, you can tell me if I'm wrong. In a course of a month, maybe 30 musicians would use your tool, maybe 30 venues. 30 venues is a lot. The moment I didn't understand is how you're going to convince agents that they should settle for some small split instead of actually getting whatever fee they normally get.
Yeah, mainly the whole thing with that, it's like mainly it's kind of a fee to make the agent's job just easier. Less cold calls, things like that. It does stink that we unfortunately have to take a percentage, but we kind of do to have agents involved and to keep that relationship and having them involved.
I feel like they would demand higher than 3%. I mean, if they're getting higher than 3% without your app, there's no incentive for them to want to work with you.
The 3% is what we're taking.
Oh, okay, all right.
And then,
So,
so
no, wait,
the
so
agent's then in charge of how much.
No, okay, yeah. Sorry, I already did the math. I was already working through it. But the agent part is where I'm like dying on the hill, because you said this is this archaic space that agents have controlled forever. And so I'm just kind of wondering if they've been that effective in their controlling the space, they're going to put up a monster fight.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
and that's the moment where I'm like, it seems like lots of people use social media and other tools, apps to create some kind of connection. And in some ways, it's reminding me a little bit of like I hate to say it, but like a dating app a little bit, right?
We hope to remind you of Zillow instead of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But but it's a similar idea, though, isn't it? Like, for example, these agents, we're making their job easier. They're going to want to go with us because we're making their job easier. And these financials are projections of how we were going to do it. But your feedback is very valuable, and it's something we could absolutely heed to.
There's only one other thing I want to say. Can you go back to the slide that you presented on, Zach, with this slide? This slide concerned me because you cited some pretty monster numbers, and I'm thinking about big name, large venue performances, tons of money involved, right? And then you cut to your target. Your target's like super small music stores, and kind of, I almost was like conjuring up an image of like local folksy artists, right? And then I'm like, so then right away I had to say, okay, I have to reject this size of this market, and now I don't have any understanding of this market. Is that how you feel too? You have
These numbers are a combination of both of those things, but the small people, the smaller bands who are making less money at smaller venues are still bringing in a lot of these numbers. I've heard it said that the wealth is at the bottom of the pyramid, right? And this is a great example of that, because there's so many more of these small musicians who are making the money compared to the big ones who are making the big money, but there's not that many of them. And the industry of small musicians who are continuing trying to make a living, or maybe like a side income off of their performances, that community is growing. And that's what Zach was trying to point out.
And I'll confess, I don't really understand what you're trying to accomplish here fully, and that's my issue, not yours, probably, because I'm not in your world. But as you're pitching this, you might want to sort of assume that maybe instead of 3 of the 4 of you are musicians, assume that 1 of the 4 of your audience might be a musician, and dumb it down even further. I'm just speaking for myself there. The question, it seems to me, though, is that you're really trying to hone in on the market that is not represented by agents, right? I mean, that's really where you'd like to make hay. Because if you go back to your slide that has the financials piece, yeah, that one right there. I mean, so if an agent, I think I heard someone say an agent gets 10% of the revenue, or of the gig cost. So basically you're saying you're taking 30% of their cut, right? If you're taking a 3% fee, you're taking 30% of the agent's cut. That's a pretty hefty slice if I'm an agent, just so that I can not make a phone call, but instead go to an app.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'd be a little concerned about that. So it strikes me that maybe your target-rich environment is the area for the musicians and bands and whatnot who don't have agents.
Well,
so
and
this
they
sort
have
of
the most to gain
bypasses
from
them.
this idea.
And then when you said Zillow/Redfin, it strikes me that that's really kind of you're trying to cut out some of the agent activity in the first place, even though you didn't say you were at the beginning.
Yeah, and I don't think I ever will say that.
Sure.
Because I don't think it's smart to say. I think to get our feet wet in this industry, we have to work with agents, and we're going to try to manipulate our figures in a way in order to get them involved.
Yeah.
Because they're representing the musicians that want to play.
That's where you lose me, because I don't understand that well.
Yeah, yeah.
So I once did a product like yours. I set up a website for matching, the people looking for safari to travel to Africa, very high end. Okay. Then I had to talk to these 80 or so very exclusive, sort of like nice resorts in the safari. So my job was matching them. And so I know what you're speaking to and the issues because I've lived them.
Yeah.
My product didn't work. and I shut it down, but I left the Facebook app. And it's been 3 years, and I still get likes on the product. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't know what they're liking. So it's a very likable product. I can see you doing something. I think the agent, my view, just knowing from experience, the big selling point or the advantage for the agent is you're really expanding the marketplace. There are very many musicians there, good guys that can sing for even maybe $100. Some I'm sure will sing for no money even, because they love the singing. But there's no safe platform where they can be curated and they can be made available at the click. So the agent's interested in these guys. So he wants to hover around your website and stay close because he can put those in his docket and move them along. But there are a lot of other things I could see you do with this in terms of like if you have the website, yes, they have their ratings, but you also can do ratings. You also can say, look, this guy seems to be being booked very often. Or you can just look at the way the musician has presented themselves and say, these are the top musicians that Music Connect likes. So again, you're providing value. And you can also say, these agents, we've talked to them, they're the most friendly. So now you begin to show some kind of classification, and that's also value. So I could see a lot of things going along. But I think the really interesting part in your idea and your business is the team. I think you have an interesting team. Music is about feelings. And I think you should build on that. Your team has some kind of something. It's music. You know, you don't know it, you'll figure it when you hear it. So you build on that, and I think that's perhaps one of the interesting things in this, because you hear it, you what is this? So build on that and bring it to the business, because it's not clear in terms of what that is. You know, others called it experience. I heard emotional connections, whatever they are. But you also need to think about that because it's not clear, and I think it's there.
Yeah, so the thing that I would add is, again, back to the point around we're not experts in this space. So the problem for needs to be articulated a little bit crisper at the beginning, right? Because it gets a little muddled for me when you're talking about musicians, venues, agents, but then you're also talking about churches that need like a drummer to fill in, because then you kind of started out with that premise. I'm like, okay, it was like a matchmaking place. So I thought maybe there was like connecting to churches, but then there's like agents involved, and I'm picturing local churches like, well, they just need somebody. It's like, well, they're going to do without, right? Or the pastor's going to have to like hack it out, until just make it work. So there was something there that wasn't right quickly me around what the problem was. So maybe, but then you also mentioned that you've connected in different stores to musicians that are making a living with it, right? So then it seemed like there were like different personas that you're trying to target. But the one that kind of led to, the revenue model was not like the church scenario. So it seemed like that then got abandoned, so muddled it for me. So part of it that would make it clear for me is, okay, if you kind of reverse engineer a little bit of like, what is that persona of the musician who's actually making a living, and here's their day-to-day life, right? Here's what they're doing today. Here's how they're getting gigs. Here's what they're looking for. So they're working with agents, and here's where our solution kind of comes in over and above that. So then it makes it clear around like, here's the existing kind of ecosystem. Here's what's happening currently. Here's then what your app is going to do. In addition to that current folks, you're also going to find some additional musicians that aren't part of that ecosystem currently that get brought in.
Right.
So that's a little bit where just a small suggestion around it for again, because not familiar with it. So I was in the same boat as you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Hello, hello.
Yes, sir.
Sure. This great called Roseas. You can get it on your own phone. Basically, what it does is it'll select all of the wine that we have in store, and you select what you're having for dinner tonight, and it'll pair the wine that you choose best with the meal for dinner. So you're telling me that everything you have in stock, like you can find some. Everything is on that for you. Nice, thank you. Yep.
Da si prema kako bi te pokidao večeras, a? Oh, dang, she's not Serbian. She speak English. Forget. Remember English. Okay, it's ready.
So whether or not you get friend zone, and whether you're drinking alone or if you're going out for social drinking, hopefully Roseas will not leave you at the table friend zone, first of all. I'm Seneca Ammons. Most of you guys know me as like, you know, that fun guy, but I actually have a really good story to tell you guys about wine, and I think you guys would be interested in it. So I'm 24 years old now. I was 21, obviously the legal drinking age. I'm not from like another country, but I was 21 when I first got into like alcohol, and I tried to go in it pretty hard. I was looking for like the tequilas and the Hennessy's and like, you know, the heavier liquors, and I quickly realized that with an upset stomach and IBS, you cannot do that, and it was not the greatest situation. So then actually I decided to do something fancier and go to a super fancy restaurant, like one like I could actually order from a menu or whatever. So I went to Chili's and I got wine off of the menu, and I ordered a glass of Chardonnay with steak and ribs, and it had bacon and cheddar queso. So bacon and cheddar is an acquired taste on its own, but when you swallow that with Chardonnay, it's the worst experience in the entire world. So if you actually click to the next slide, you can show my facial reaction. That's exactly how I looked eating that food after drinking the Chardonnay. So, you know, you can go into a wine store or whatever and see how, you know, confusing everything is. And this is exactly what I was on my date. I was very confused. I didn't know what to order. And I ordered that awful Chardonnay with the steak and, you know, the queso. So how do you avoid that? I'm going to give it over to Jose and let you, you know, give your take on it.
Thank you, Seneca. My name is Jose, and I will be giving an analogy. So in comparison to wine, I am going to compare it to tea. So like wine, tea has been something that we've drank for centuries now. And just like wine in its simplistic way of creating it, with wine being fermented grapes and tea, steeping leaves into hot water, I've had the same issue. So the story goes, it is my freshman/sophomore year, and I was a nursing student. So there was no way I was going to be drinking coffee every night and trying to stay up. So I was going to try an alternative to tea. Now I'm going to ask President Dykstra some questions. So do you know around how long you're supposed to steep black tea?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? He does know. Okay, great. Now, no, that's fine. That's fine. That is fine. Now, do you know around what temperature you're supposed to steep white tea?
About 140 degrees.
Yeah, that's about it. Roughly, yes, give or take. No, that's perfect. Do you know what kind of teas you add milk to?
Typically black, like an English breakfast, typically. Yes.
Now, would you say like this information, how'd you find this information?
Trial and error and going to Scotland.
Exactly. So this is something that he has learned throughout his years. And I didn't know that. So when I was trying these different teas, they all tasted bitter or bad, as President Dykstra would probably know. If you don't steep tea correctly, that's what happens. So just like Seneca had his problem with wine, I was having my troubles with tea. So I was able to find information through Teavana, and you can look up the type of teas that you're drinking, and it'll tell you exactly what temperature, what time, what ingredients are in it, and you can learn all that information. So what I'm getting at is what Teavana did for tea, Roseus does for wine.
All right, so what is Roseus? Roseus is a free application that will be available for anyone who has access to the App Store, on either the iOS or Android platform. And so to demonstrate the product, I'm going to actually go through a prototype that we've made here. One second. Okay, so this is Roseus. This is the starting screen that you'll go to upon opening the app. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, and it's going to welcome you to the app. So welcome to Roseus. Have you had any previous experience with wine? I'm going to say yes, because I have. What would you like to do on Roseus? So I'm going to learn about, you can either learn about wine or find local wine. So I'm going to learn about wine, and would you like to create a profile? So I'm going to create a profile, and it's going to sign me in. And so here you'll come upon the main homepage of the app. The Stories tab here will contain any relevant news articles that have been talked about for wine. So this would be an example, best wines for breakfast. I can open this, and then I can go into here and basically read this article. Going back to the main menu, then there's the Learn tab and the Find tab. The Find tab will make more sense once you learn about the Learn tab. But the Find tab is basically, you can go into here and you can find specific wines that you're looking for and navigate to those places through the app. And so then there's the Learn tab. The Learn tab is basically why we created Roseus. So with all of the different types of wine that there is, basically this is going to be the main thing that you're going to be going through to search the wine. So we're going to go, you can either search through type, pairing, or region. Type, red, white, sparkling, rosé, dessert, and fortified. And then pairing-wise, you can pair it with different types of food that are listed here. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back to type, and then we're going to go to rosé. So it'll take you to this screen where it'll give you a couple different options of rosés and a little bit of information about them. And so I'm going to choose this one, and it'll give me a little bit of information here about the grape, what foods it pairs well with, and then a little more information about the grape. So you can either buy it now or find it through the store. Selecting this one would take you to the Find tab where you would find it, and then using the Buy Now tab, basically you'll be able to add it to your cart and purchase through the app. Ooh, sorry. And so talking about the price here, the price of the app is free. It'll be openly accessible to anybody who has a phone on the App Store, so it'll be a free app that anybody can use. In order to keep our costs low, we've decided through interviews that we didn't want to ship, or we didn't want to specifically ship and store the wines because that would take a lot of money upon startup. So what we decided is to be a mediator basically between the customer and the retailer. So we'd partner with local grocery stores, and partner stores would be responsible for the shipping and the handling. So this would include stores like Jewel Osco, Mariano's, and Benny's, who we're actually talking to right now. We've showed them the idea for our app, and that they're actually very, very interested in working with us. So upon all of this working out, then yeah. We will be taking 10% of this final sale price for the wine, and that would be how we're pricing our app.
So the App Store is our direct channel. And once again, like we said, we will not have to worry about physical distribution because our partner stores will be carrying them. This was a problem we had early on, and we decided that we're not going to deal with stocking everything. So that's what we're doing.
All right, and as far as profit and revenue go, in the first month, we expect to sell, on average, over 200 bottles of wine with a prospect price of $15 per bottle at 2 bottles per customer. Thus, profit per month is $300 with a little asterisk after, which is down there. That's taken after our 10% cut. And the profit per year is $3,600. Now, that's the first year alone. So in the second year, with the steady but rapid climb due to traction runs we've already done with potential partners, we've done it with our interviewers, and popularity models, Roseas expects to have made more than double in our first year based on projections. And as we all know, wine is not going anywhere. It's like a hospital. It's not going anywhere. So our profit per month then would be $600, and then the profit per year would be $7,200. Our customer acquisition costs would be $2,200 to cost to market. We actually did this through the Facebook advertisement feature, just to see if we can get our name out there and see if people will be able to see it. And we will spend only 55 cents on each customer, just because of the keep up of the app and whatnot. And then our channel diagram. So starting off, we are at $0, and our customers will go directly to the reseller's website. Going forward, we're looking at $11.25 per month for upkeep and maintenance. 10% of final sale value is our profit. The reseller gets more customers from our business than they would do with money, so it's better for them to look for customers only and let us keep the 10%. And then we get the small commission, and the businesses involved gain more customers.
Okay, so promotion-wise, as we said before, we're going to be promoting through social media advertisements, through videos and pictures. We've learned that with our generation of people that are coming up, with the age group that we want to target, videos and images is the best way to do this. We would also use in-store promotion using kiosks, so people would be able to see the name of Roseas through in the wine sections of Jewel's, Mariano's, and Benny's. And so that would help to get our name out there as well as bring the store customers. And then by word of mouth would be the last way of promotion.
Okay, the way we determined our weaknesses for our SWOT analysis were the interviews that we conducted, and it was about roughly 45, maybe more. And what the feedback that we received was that they wanted an environment where they can, socialize and, drink wine casually. So just being able to integrate a better social atmosphere. Also, making the app more communicative.
Then our strengths that we found basically were that people were willing to invest in Roseas because the convenience, and they wanted it to be delivered, and then just the unique of it, and being able to do it on your cell phone because it's just, like I said, convenient, and then just to be in the community to talk about talk to other people about the app and about reviews and your opinions of different wines and connect with other people. And then you can track what you drink through your cart and then just share, show the popular products. And then the opportunities, basically the wine and tech market are growing, so $240 billion is in the industry by the time this app would launch in summer 2019. And then there's just more curiosity around wine and food pairing, so we want to give that to people in the community.
So our threats are other wine pairing apps, also restaurants and grocery stores that promote wine.
So for our objectives by the end of 2020, basically we want to have hopefully around 100,000 downloads on the App Store, have finished at least 10,000 deliveries to partners or to the customers, get kiosks in partner stores so that Roseas' name spread.
Let's start right where you ended, on the threats side. So, Leah forced me to download Vivino app because that should have been a little funnier, but apparently it wasn't. So, and I don't think she's in the room, so that works out okay for me too. But in any event, there's at least 3 competitors you've identified in the app space. So why you versus these folks who've got a starting, kind of a running start ahead of you?
I'll actually take that question. Why us? Because first of all, it's us, and we're Trinity alumni. But no, actually, we've checked out the competitors as well, and honestly, what they offer is very surface level. Like, we're not looking at thorough, deep experiences, because what we wanted Roseas to be was to be an immersive experience for anyone to use it. So like, well, anyone that's over 21, but Vivino, Hello Vino, and Saucy, like they specifically like go about it directly, intentionally looking for pairings and like what you can order at the time. What we offer differently is a place where you can find it on the spot and within like a convenient time for you, and also a beautiful UI and a phenomenal encyclopedia that shows you all of the wines. Vivino, Hello Vino, and Saucy, because I actually checked out Vivino. Vivino doesn't really offer the same catalog because we based ours off of the noble grapes and the sparkling varieties. So our wine catalog is actually more in depth than theirs is.
Okay. And do you have a sense as to how these 3 entities, for instance, make their money, and if they take a cut of a sale as well, or do they actually have inventory?
So with these people, do you want to take this question?
So the biggest difference between Vivino, Hello Vino, and Saucy is basically that you can order through the app, but there's no specific way to go and get the product yourself. So they're basically missing out on an entire another part of a market where you can market in grocery stores where people would be buying wine and get their name out there. So basically that's what Roseas does differently from these 3.
While you were talking, I was just curious, so I Googled wine pairing apps and actually found 50. There's a lot of them, yeah. And I mean, I would be curious, I don't have time obviously to click through all 50, but I don't know. I mean, I'm having a hard time figuring out how you are able to make this claim. The moment that I really dialed in that I thought was really interesting is that you said you've had conversations with Binny's, Mariano's, and with Jewel. So what were they seeing from you? What is for their, what's the value proposition you're bringing?
Absolutely. So we actually did communicate with Mariano's and Jules, and what they really were interested in, because they have Peapod, but with Peapod you can't really, there's a lot of laws that go around sending and receiving alcohol, specifically even with vendors. And with that in mind, Peapod doesn't really give many people the option to get or receive alcohol. So even though they can get their groceries through Peapod, they still cannot actually order alcohol and like have it sent to them. And because of that, Roseas is doing, we're not delivering groceries to anyone. We're just connecting the people from their phone to the store where they can get their wine from, but like also learn an experience as well, and also find a community that can understand them.
So maybe, are you saying that essentially you're helping to drive traffic to those grocery stores? Is that what attracts them?
Exactly what we're saying, but we're gaining money from the 10% cut of the sale to that store for that wine.
Okay, so have you told the store about the 10% cut?
Absolutely.
And they didn't throw you out the door?
Absolutely, they did not throw us out the door.
All right, and I guess one more question, then I'll get rid of this microphone. But so as I understand your model, you're connecting people with wines that they think that they would like, and then you tell them where they can go find it, and is it pre-ordered or something, and then they go pick it up from the Jewel, from the Mariano's?
So what would happen would be the person would either order through the app, and then basically they would be redirected to Jewel's, Benny's, or Mariano's app, to where we'd be able to see the traction coming. They would be able to see the traction coming from the website, so we know that they know that they would be coming from us, and they would basically carry on with the purchase through Jewel's, Mariano's, or Benny's. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to say the same thing, but in a different way. So it sounds like you're in the click business. Your product is clicks. The people that click, eventually you convert them. And I'd like your number of customer acquisition costs because that's key. Every dollar I put, I get 55. So if that's correct, then obviously you can put $1 billion in this and you can capture, depending on how that is and all the scaling things. But I think that for you to remain sustainable, at some point you have to have something different. And with products, goes back to meaning. Every wine has a story. Just like every wine has a story, yes, there's a food pairing and everything, but where's the wine from matters. Some people, they'll tell you, I want Argentina, or they hear Australia, others say Italy, and everyone, California. So there's those stories. I think those can help you differentiate what your product is beyond the clicks. You know, but it's going to need a bit of research and work and good storytelling to package, which then brings me to my question, which is the product. So go back to your business model, your numbers, basically. So I'll ask you the same question I asked every group is, when do you break even?
When do we break even?
Yeah.
So starting off with, so I'm a computer science major, but this class has allowed me to experience to like truly like cross over into the business genre. So like I've not learned much about it, but it has helped me learn plenty. From what I can understand, like our break even is not a high like cost at all because of how cheap our expenses are starting off. So we already are starting off at $0, and then our profit is already higher than what our expenses would be. So it would honestly be the negative honestly chasing the positive, because no matter what, we would still be ahead only because of that 10% cut that we're expecting from our partners.
So theoretically, yes, but discipline-wise and functional-wise and technical-wise, you have to lay out your costs.
Absolutely.
Developing an app, an average app costs $1,000.
Absolutely.
You have 5 of you, maybe you get, I don't know, maybe $1,000 a month, that's 5,000. So all those begin to add up.
Right.
So those have to be matched to your 10% commission. I saw somewhere you're going to do bottles. Every bottle is how much? $15.
So that on average, every bottle you can go to like a grocery store, you'll find it's on average $15, unless you're going for like the really expensive brands.
So if you sell 200 at 15, that's 3,000.
10% of that.
That's $300.
Yeah. If you actually go back to the, can you go to the previous slide, please?
That has to then be used to explain the break-even point. And I think you have all the numbers.
Right.
To do it. So you just need to do it.
Actually do the calculation.
6,000 units is where I break even. Then we know if it's worth to invest in.
Absolutely.
So the question that I had was around kind of hit the cost and the expenses. You know, there's it didn't seem like there was some technology. You know, you have an app that's just going to be, you know, your key differentiator, but there isn't a lot. There wasn't something on your cost around technology. So I don't know if you can go back to your slide with cost. Right. So you had, you know, $11 a month for maintenance of a website and app. So it seems like that underestimates kind of the cost of, one is designing your app and then maintaining your app. You know, so to host a simple website, sure, it could cost very little, but you know, to actually design and maintain an app is a different conversation, right? So I think that's not a good reflection of it. The other question I had was around, you know, how are you connecting to inventory, right? So you made the comment that, you know, Vivino has, you know, a certain list of wines, but your list is bigger, right? So that's something proprietary. Vivino's actually raised like, you know, several tens of millions of dollars through different funds of raising. So how is your list bigger than Vivino's?
So in reference to what the list and like how it was bigger than theirs, it just means strictly like encyclopedia and like information wise. Like, so like they don't specify what like Cabernet Sauvignon is or like what Chardonnay will be able to like pair with or anything like that. They don't show you the different like vineyards that we'll go through. And briefly on our developmental screen, we showed you a rosé, where we could find a rosé, and actually beneath it is where you can see like what vineyard. I'm sorry, that word cannot pop in my head, and we're doing a wine app. Vineyard is what you would see underneath it. So you always know where you're getting it from. It's just that our catalog will like immerse you into wine more because we have more like information on wine than like their app does specifically.
Okay, and then what is the plan you have around kind of connecting to the wine inventory? Like, so how is your app going to reflect the inventories at the local stores?
So basically, the local stores would just be in charge of handling inventory just like they handle everything else. They would be able to access through the app eventually once we get to that point, but eventually access through the app and inventory space to where you can put in the different types of wine that you have, and then at those specific stores, only those options would show up for going to pick it up or vice versa.
Yeah, no, so I see where you're going with it. There's a significant kind of cost around kind of planning and then actually connecting how are you actually going to connect the systems to kind of work with each other to be able to do that, to actually beyond the idea to actually put it into kind of a technology platform so that it works on the back end side. Okay.
Very good, thank you. Take about a 10-minute break, and then we'll be announcing the winners after the judges compute their scores and tabulate them.
Also, if you guys want rosé, the sparkling non-alcoholic rosé, let me just reaffirm non-alcoholic.
That was good. Thank you for that.
There's some right there for anyone to take and have.
All right, guys. So I know you guys have been waiting for the announcement, and we are back. Scores have been tabulated, deliberations have been had, but a few quick words from me before Professor Nyhoff announces the winners. For most of you, you know that I had my Easter this past weekend, right? So I had my resurrection service this past Saturday night. Yesterday we had something called the Agape services. It's basically when Jesus presented himself to the disciples after he was risen for the first time. And the gospel, John chapter 20, was read in like 10 different languages. And what happened from that moment forward, the disciples went out and started preaching the gospel, right? What were they doing? They had a value proposition. They had a target audience. They were pitching. At the end of the day, what you guys did today, you guys had the experience of learning to take a message and how do you carry it to a targeted audience? And that's exactly what you guys did. So from me to you, as my students, I applaud all of you for doing an amazing job, the hard work you put in. So mad respect for you guys. I also want to take a moment once again to thank our judges who brought the questions to you, right? And they brought the heat, and they helped you guys see through this. So thank you to you, to our Sharks. And now for the moment you've been waiting for, Professor Nyhoff. We're going to start with third place. 3, 2, 1. I was about to say that too.
And I just want to hasten to add that all of the teams received positive remarks from the judges. So bear that in mind. Good things all around. Exactly. All right. Are you ready? Third place. Your drink. Nicely done. Second place, Music Connect. Very good work. And it was really interesting. It wasn't all unanimous either. There was a lot of different rankings here. So really, really tight at the top there. So well done, all of you. But the first place finisher tonight was and is Box Finder. Congratulations, all three.